There it is. Now what's going on? There it is. Fuck, it took forever. Go back to my Twitch. Alright, it's live. Turn that down. I can see Twitch chat now. Now I just gotta see Kick chat, and then we're good to go. Welcome to the show. Let's do this. I took a quick nap. I should be alright on energy. And let's get this started. Alright, here we are. Alright. Let's start with this one. There was on my notes that we're going to go through today. What's this?
All right, y'all. If y'all ever needed a reason to pay attention to the courts, today would have been the day, y'all. Buckle up because the Democrats just stormed out of a Senate hearing due to a protest, of course, against Donald Trump pick for federal judge, y'all. And he goes by the name of Emil Boll. For those who don't know Emil Boll, just to give you just a little bit of pinch of history, you know what I'm saying, on him. Y'all can go and look him up and research. But he was one of the attorney generals who actually either shelved or let go of prosecutors during the January 6th. He has done some...
I don't know who this person is, but let's go to here.
If you want better sleep, check out Pod 5 from our sponsor, 8 Rate Ultra Limits of the Meaning of Words. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. If I said to you, I am making trade deals, do you envision that there is more than one party to the deal? I think for the most part, with average to better English language skills, you understand a deal to be something that has at least two parties. I can't go to a car dealership and say, I will not be paying any more than 15 grand for this car and call that a deal. A deal means that we have agreed to the terms. I am willing to pay for the vehicle some amount at which you are willing to sell me the vehicle. And if I just start sending dealerships letters, we can't say that those are deals. And Peter Navarro, longtime Trump suck-up, one-time economic advisor, one-time prison inmate, total sycophant, is acknowledging these aren't exactly deals by his definition. Now, he doesn't say that. He still tries to defend Donald Trump, but here he is this morning on Fox Business speaking to Maria Bartiromo, and this is a total blindside to Donald Trump when his own guy is saying, well, it's not exactly what we called it. It's the economic narrative collapsing as soon as someone opens their mouth. So here's Maria Bartiromo. It's a very basic question. It's a tractable and measurable question. How many more trade deals do you expect in the coming month? Put aside for a moment that 90 deals and 90-day deadline has already come and gone. They had one deal. Put that aside for a moment. How many more deals can we expect in the next month? Listen to the words that Peter Navarro uses.
Real quick, Peter, how many more deals would you expect on trade in the coming month?
Well, look, I want to make this really clear. We've got a bunch of deals right now, but a lot of them are unilateral because we had to send letters to people. And the problem, Maria, is they have such a good deal screwing America, let me be blunt about it, that they're reluctant. But we've got over 90% of the trade deficit covered with letters or deals right now. We're in a good place. Trust in Trump. He's going to get it done, and the American people are going to have trillions of dollars in tax cuts. And
don't ask too many questions, Maria. Just trust in Trump.
Debt reduction because of that. Let's never lose sight of the fact of that.
Well, we just had a budget surplus for the month of June, so there's that, thanks to tariff revenue. Peter, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Man, it's hard to defend him right now, right? It's hard to defend Trump right now with the Epstein thing. Shh, good luck.
You know, Trump and his team used to say, we are going to make 90 deals in 90 days. It wasn't very long ago, so I presume most of you remember that. and it was going to be this golden age of trade, like a phoenix rising over the horizon. America would be respected again. Deals would be raining down from the sky as every country is desperate to get a deal done with Donald Trump. We are now down to sending letters long after the deadline has come and gone. These are not signed agreements. These are not joint announcements. These are not frameworks. These are, I wrote them a letter saying, we're tariffing you 35%. And not only were they not eager and desperate to make a deal by my own self-imposed deadline, they are not even responding to my letter in many cases. So these aren't deals. Really, these are threats. These are warning shots, one-way memos that don't have both sides.
Let's see.
Concerns over a new assembly bill and its impact on local charter schools. I'm Dylan Foreman, your community reporter in San Luis Obispo, looking into the bill and what it means for charter and non-classroom based schools if passed.
This is what I'm dealing with right now.
Assembly Bill 84, currently being considered in the state Senate, seeks to provide more accountability and financial oversight for schools, specifically charter schools.
The heart of the legislation, I'm sure, is to just protect public dollars.
Amelia Sheehan and her two kids are part of the non-classroom-based charter school, Heartland Charter School, which oversees 6,500 kids across Central California while partnering with over 270 educational vendors that help kids learn outside the classroom. Sheehan says those resources are at risk as a result of the bill.
Don't take away student choice. Don't take away the flexibility of non-classroom-based charter. We need that flexibility for our students to really thrive and to become the best version of themselves as they grow up.
The bill partly stems from concerns over the behavior of a select few charter schools that engaged in misappropriation of funds or scams, most notably one in San Diego County that saw the theft of $400 million of taxpayer money from 2016 to 2019.
We all want to crack down on the fraud and abuse of tax dollars, but we also don't want the unintended consequences of hurting good charter schools.
Co-author Assemblyman Al Muratsuchi made sure to recognize that most charter schools are beneficial, with California having the most charter schools out of any other state.
There are good charter schools that provide choice for students and parents in many communities throughout our state.
Courtney McCorkle is the executive director of Heartland Charter School and explained they already have a rigorous accountability system through their authorizing school district, and that much of what they do already involves a great amount of oversight.
$4 million is not even that much. Is that all you scammed, bro? Come on, California. We spend more on taxes for other fucking things. Like, it's fucking stupid. And fuck that San Diego charter school that fucking ruined it for everybody else, bro.
A lot of accountability written into this bill. Some of it's already being required and already done through Heartland, but some of it is new and cumbersome.
Currently, there is a moratorium on the establishment of new non-classroom-based charter schools through January 1st of 2026, which began in 2020. For Heartland, between oversight fees, more audits, and potential changes in authorizing districts, it could be costly.
Yes, overhead costs are what would be increasing, and that unfortunately would affect how we serve our students.
On Wednesday, the bill will go before the Senate Committee on Education for the second time. After that, it will head to the Senate Appropriations Committee and then must pass through the legislature before September 12th. In San Luis Obispo, Dylan Foreman, KSBY News.
Shit. Okay, let's look more on it.
And one of the smartest chess moves Vegeta has produced in this show.
Dang, that's all old stuff. New effort on a way to push voter ID. That's all I can find on it. I know they voted on it. Let's see if there's any upload date on about it.
That we have AB 84 first on the agenda. Welcome, Assemblymember Marsucci, and you may begin when you're ready. And just as an FYI,
when it comes to non-classroom base, there's one authorizer and one
are being requested.
So I get it. I'm not.
hopeful that we'll get it across the line. I will look forward to paying attention to the details as they continue to be negotiated. And and if this committee needs to reconvene or other means in order to assure that the package that we end up with between the two bills reflects these varying values and concerns and issues and opportunities to make sure that we are providing a meaningful, high quality, big impact, good outcome opportunities for families and students from throughout the state, and simultaneously make sure that we are fully protecting the public dollars, public interest, and fiscal fiduciary responsibility. I think we can do it, and we have the A team of Senator Ashby and Assemblymember Matsucci on this, so I look forward to the work. Today, I won't be voting on a yes or no on the bill, just as because I have a lot of concerns about it, but I also know that there's a lot of progress being made on the negotiation, hoping that we get a conclusion. Madam Chair, thank you very much. This is thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. I know there's been a whole lot of discussion already, and I think a majority of my questions and concerns that I was going to raise have been raised already. So I just want to go ahead and take an opportunity, I think, one, to share a little bit, about my support for AB 84, why I'm recommending an aye vote. And also understanding and underscoring that this is very much an active negotiation process. We've met several times to discuss your bill. Assemblymember Marsucci, I've met with several of the members of the opposition that are in this room, as well as the supporters. And I know that you've been very committed to continue to negotiate in good faith. I recognize that there is other legislation in this space, SB 414. As I've shared with you, and I've also shared with Senator Ashby, it is my preference that there's a bringing together of both bills and an agreement that's met. I'm hoping that we'll enter that point at some point during this cycle, but we'll continue to be a part of that conversation, especially given my role in this process. So it's very important to me that a good policy comes out of this process. I want to make clear this bill is not about punishing charter schools or eliminating parent choice. It's about common sense accountability and rebuilding public trust following the largest fraud scandal in California's public education history. AB 84 implements thoughtful oversight reforms drawn from two independent, nonpartisan reports, something I want to highlight, and who I really want to give credit to here is Mr. Mike Fine, who's here with us today. There's been a lot of conversation on both sides, whether we've heard from the opposition or the support. I think one thing that's been made very clear is that we need more oversight and accountability in this space. I also want to make clear, and I've shared this with several of the charter schools that I've met with, that it hurts charter schools to continue to allow for this mismanagement to happen. It harms the credibility of good charter schools that are doing good work for students, and whether those are charter schools that are brick and mortar and in the classroom, whether they're online, there are great things that are happening, and addressing this problem is so critical, not just for overall the misuse of tax dollars, but really ensuring that we're able to deliver and highlight the good work that's happening. It's being tarnished by these bad actors, and so we need to do something about this. So we've had this report that was commissioned in response to the A3 charter fraud case, a $400 million criminal scheme involving fake students, payments to youth sports leagues for enrollment, and a complete breakdown in authorizer oversight. The case revealed how easy it is to exploit our current system, especially when authorizers are unprepared or under-resourced. The reforms in this bill are grounded in recommendations from the Legislative Analyst Office, the State Controller's Office, and the Fiscal Crisis Management Assistant Team. And I want to highlight that because I think one of the things that concerns me, and this area of fiscal oversight and management and transparency laws are very important to me. I used to serve in local government. I passed one of the strongest campaign finance laws in the entire state. We don't even allow political donations from unions in the city of Alhambra. And so it is a very, very stringent law. And that was part of the reason was we did all of this work before I even got elected to office around transparency. Now, when you have a group that has committed fiscal mismanagement, the appropriate way to go about that is to find, ideally, a nonpartisan, independent group to come up with recommendations to that. Not the folks that want to see the other group be eliminated, not the group trying to regulate itself, but to actually have an independent agency come up with recommendations. And that's what you had here with FCMAT and with Mike Klein in generating this report, which I think is really critical, and I want to highlight that. And as we continue to have these conversations, whether it's been on AB 84, whether it's been on SB 414, I've made very clear to both authors that it's my priority that the report that came out, the independent, nonpartisan analysis is what needs to be centered. And I've made that very clear to both folks. These are politically neutral public agencies. Again, FCMAT in particular is not the Grim Reaper of charter schools. It regularly provides support to help charter schools in financial distress to stay open and improve. So this really, they are the experts in this space, not just for public schools, but for charter schools. The bill requires better data reporting, strengthens financial audits, and makes sure school districts have the capacity to oversee the schools that they authorize. It also protects public dollars by closing loopholes in the funding determination process for non-classroom-based charter schools. These are practical steps, not radical changes. And I want to highlight, because I know it's been mentioned before, both bills and the laws that they are proposing, as well as the report that Mike Fine produced, are making recommendations not just for charter schools. This bill would apply to all LEAs, so it would be both public and charter schools. No school in the state of California should be committing this kind of fiscal mismanagement, misuse of funds. And so there needs to be accountability across the board, and that was something that was also very important to me. We should not be treating one different than the other. So I want to also make that very clear, because I know that was brought up and raised. The author has already taken significant amendments to address concerns. We're continuing to work on those amendments, including removing or revising several controversial provisions. The committee is adopting additional amendments today, and discussions will continue over the summer on many other components of this bill, and the author has already committed to that. One of the provisions generating concern relates to how public funds are used for enrichment activities in NCB programs. Some families feel this could disrupt their model, but the intent here is not to prohibit vendor-based instruction. It's to ensure public dollars are used responsibly and under the guidance of credentialed educators. This reflects a real tension. On one hand, families value flexibility and personalized learning, something that's important when we want to preserve. On the other, we must avoid turning instructional funds into publicly financed extracurricular accounts with limited oversight. So there's a balance that we're trying to meet here. Both concerns are valid, and further discussion is warranted. We know that this is a major piece that we're still working through with the author. I support AB 84 not because I oppose charter schools. I've supported many over the years and have worked with many of them over the years. Some of you are familiar with my work that we've done before my time here being elected to this office, but because I believe in the integrity of our public education system, and that is what is currently at stake. We owe it to families, taxpayers, and students, especially those served by NCB programs, to ensure that every public dollar is spent transparently and with accountability. So with that, Assemblymember Marsucci, I'll just say again, and if you could just say for the record, I just want to ensure that you continue to work. I know there's been so many parents and families that have shown up today, and I really want to thank them for taking the time to be here. I know you recognize how important this bill is to them, and will you continue to commit to working with these families over the summer as you continue to engage in negotiations, both with Senator Ashby as well as with many of the parents and other charter schools that have questions and concerns?
Absolutely. I mean, we have worked in good faith to try to meet with
as many people, not just the organizations represented in Sacramento, but I know that I've personally had conversations with many homeschool parents individually and directly. But clearly we can't, we haven't been able to meet with each and every homeschool family that has concerns about AB 84, but we will continue this process. We are ready, as I mentioned before, meeting twice a week with all stakeholders, including Senator Ashby's office, including the Charter School Association, and those discussions and negotiations will continue.
Thank you. And I just want to say again before I close out, again, it is really my priority to make sure.
So I think none of this goes into effect till next year. So they'll still get the funds this year, but next year it's going to change up. We'll see how everything goes. They don't have much on it right now because they're still working on the bill. I thought they're going to have more on it. We'll go to my notes, see what else we got going on. Let's see. People in office saying Epstein case is a distraction. That's going to be upsetting to me. Let's go watch that. Let's see.
The Trump administration is moving ahead with plans to reopen Alcatraz as a federal prison, an idea some critics have dismissed as impossible, in part because of how expensive it would be to repair and retrofit as a complex that, frankly, was so run down that they closed it, and so expensive to operate. 60 years ago, they closed its doors. My next guest is among those critics, Democratic Congresswoman and Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. Alcatraz is part of her district in San Francisco. It's so good to see you. And before we even get to the politics of this, Madam Speaker, so what's wrong with using a site that already exists?
What's wrong with using a site that 60 years ago was shut down because it was too expensive to run as a prison, that since then has had to meet environmental standards to be part of the National Park Service, the GG Golden Gate National Recreation Area. What's wrong with it is it's costing a fortune to bring it back to being a real prison. Right now it's a tourist attraction, which has been a venue for art and community events, something that this administration doesn't appreciate, obviously, and of course the environmental concerns of no concern of theirs. But the fact is, I've said this is not only stupid, with stiff competition, one of the stupidest initiative put forth by this administration. It cost a fortune at the same time as they're taking food out of the mouths of babies, at the same time they're kicking millions of people out of health care, on the same day that we're voting to do tragic things in terms of our relationships with other countries and stopping disease from coming into our own country, that they would be doing this. They just added a few $1 trillion to the national debt to get a tax cut to the richest people in America. And now they're going to, and they did this taking money out of health care and food and nutrition and all the rest of that. And now they're going to spend money on this foolish idea. It will never happen.
Well, we do know, and you know this, the president wants to look tough on crime. And frankly, that message has been...
Why is she scared of the Epstein list herself, bro?
...effective with his base. But other than that, why do you think the administration wants to do this?
Well, first of all, let's talk about being tough on crime. Being tough on crime is not turning Alcatraz, which won't even be a prison for a long time to come. I don't think it'll ever happen. If we want to be tough on crime, let's talk about community safety. Let's talk about how we can have more support for cities and states so that they can have... It isn't about cutting off the funding for fentanyl and what we're trying to do in that regard. Do not consider changing Alcatraz into a prison as being tough on crime, being tough on crime. So it's just a waste. It's silly. It's foolish. And it happens in the context of cruelty, which they're doing with taking food hundreds of billions of dollars because they have to be fiscally sound as they add trillions of dollars to give tax cuts to the rich. This is not about being tough on crime. It's being frivolous about money and silly about the choices they have made.
Could they do it legally? Is there anything you, as a member of Congress, could do about it? Is there anything Governor Newsom could do about it?
It's not a question of can they do it legally. It will require action by the Congress of the United States for this to happen. I know that my colleagues here have abdicated the power of the purse to the president, but this still will require legislation for them to do, both in the funding, but also in the environmental laws that they must follow in whatever they do. So we will be legislating to see where these members will go, litigating in the courts, and also communicating to the American people. Now, there's so much fuss about Alcatraz. I wish there was much fuss about Alcatraz among some of us here as there is about food out of the mouths of babies. I'm here for the children, and this is not for the children. This is an ego thing. I think the president saw a movie 50 years ago or something, and he's decided on the strength of that intellectual resource that he will do this. But do not be misled to think that this is tough on crime.
I mentioned earlier that the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, is headed there today. She's been in the middle of this controversy over Jeffrey Epstein. Look, you know too well, the power of conspiracy theories. Your husband was attacked by a man who'd fallen for them. Is it your sense there's anything the president can do now to get his supporters to move off of the Epstein issue? Should he? Where do you land on this?
You know, again, this is a distraction. This is a distraction. We have major issues right here with things we're voting on today in the Congress. Again, in terms of the rescission that the president and the Senate have sent back over us to cut all of these resources out of helping poor people throughout the world, to be America play its leadership role in soft power to keep us safe and to keep us healthy, so that viruses know no boundary. And instead, we're talking about him, about this thing, and at his own basis has its own views of what the president should do. I'll leave it up to them to talk it out. But again, whether it's Jeffrey Epstein or Alcatraz, it's all off the subject of what they're doing with this budget that is harmful to the kitchen table, meeting the kitchen table needs of the American people.
I want to make sure I understand what you mean when you say distraction. Do you think that Pam Bondi going to Alcatraz is meant potentially as a distraction from Epstein, which has not gone over well at all with the president's base?
No, I think they're both distractions. I think they're both. I don't think she's going to Alcatraz. I think she's planned to do that. But I think that they're both off the subject of what is happening, changing the character and the culture of America by undermining, by placing huge trillions of dollars of national debt on the for future generations to carry forward at the expense of the health, nutrition, education of the American people. I'll just make this further point. Nothing brings more money to the Treasury than the education of the American people, whether it's early childhood, K through 12, higher education, post-grad, lifetime learning for our workers. Nothing brings more money. And yet, they and their friends in the court are undermining public education in our country. So we're talking about judgment. We're talking about no vision, no values. And again, with some of the things they're doing, it's not the price only, it's the money. It's the money that they're using for frivolous ideas like the Alcatraz idea. And again, it's important. It's important to me. It's in my district. But it's not urgent the way it is urgent for us to cut get rid of the cuts that they have made in our budget that meet the needs of the American people.
Let me ask you about another dramatic moment, frankly, on the Hill today. And you've been on the Hill, what, for I think 38 years. So I want to ask you what we saw on the Senate side. Do you think Democrats who walked out over this nomination of Emil Bovee to a lifetime judicial position, Was that an effective tactic? Does it make them look petulant? What do you make of what we saw today as a demonstration against what they felt was not being heard on the issue of Emil Bovee?
I congratulate them for doing it. I'm proud of them for doing it because public sentiment is important in all things, as Lincoln has told us. But for public sentiment to prevail, people have to know.
This
and
fucking
this
cocksucker.
dramatic move on the part of the Senate Democrats is very important. With all the respect in the world for some of the Republican senators there, how they could associate themselves with such a ridiculous choice for a lifelong Court of Appeals appointment is really, really hard to understand, except maybe cowardice and fear of the President of the United States. This man should not be. Look, 900 former members of the people at the Justice Department came out against this appointment. This is as low as you can get, but they seem to have been having a limbo contest with themselves to see how low they can go in terms of the lack of quality of the candidates that they put forth.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Flagrant. You know, there was a vote by the House committee to see if we could get the whole Epstein file released, and shockingly, some of these politicians, I believe, how many of them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them said that it's probably not a good idea that we release the full, detailed Epstein file. And, you know, what we could do is just decide to move on to something else. I'm sure there'll be other news stories. Or maybe we could bring somebody who has become quite the expert at the Epstein story. Phenomenal podcast. Our good friends Sagar and Jenny, everybody. Yeah, I saw your episode with Tucker. It was absolutely amazing. And, like, I didn't realize how detailed and in-depth your knowledge of.
Thanks, brother. Well, he's got a kid now.
So you gotta know.
So now, you gotta know.
That's true. You gotta protect it. And I have a baby girl.
Yeah,
so
I didn't do the research, but I asked you a lot of questions.
That's what all good men do.
Yeah, you outsource to an Indian.
So maybe it's a good idea that we just kind of like start with the case for Epstein being intelligence, because what I've seen quite recently is a lot of people kind of wiping the record and acting like this is pure conspiracy, that he did have any ties or connections. And I think there's a lot of like, we have a lot of tidbits of information that we've all kind of collected, and there's this collective conscience that he absolutely is. So, like, what is the argument for it? Maybe give us some backstory. I know you put together something amazing, so just break it down. Who is this Epstein character that we all think we know so well?
I'll start off from the top. I totally understand people who are saying it's a conspiracy theory, and in large part, I think it's because it's been wildly overstated by some people, which is natural in open environment, right? They're like, he's obviously Mossad, he's obviously CIA, this is part of a blackmail ring. And in my opinion, the American people actually have it right. They just don't have the language, the facts, and they need to pull it together. And I want them to have the information that they have to be able to make that case. Especially whenever we have the former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett just yesterday, who said unequivocally Epstein did not work for Mossad. Now remember, you know, there are key terms here that matter. Work is not the same as asset or worked with or worked with at some time. And this is the master game that these people play, the non-denial denial. It's one of the most classic things in the history of Washington. So let's start at the very, very, very beginning. And I've put together some stuff. That's why I have my laptop here with me. So the first time that we can see any link between Jeffrey Epstein and somebody who would become eventually very important to a story in the intelligence world is in 1974. So 1974, right here in New York City, where we are today, Jeffrey Epstein, despite having no college degree and being a dropout from New York University, is hired by Donald Barr. Now, why does that last name sound familiar? Donald Barr is the father of William Barr, who is the U.S. Attorney General under Donald Trump in 2019, who actually presides over the investigation into the Jeffrey Epstein suicide. I'll just call it a death here for now. So Donald Barr in 1974 hires Jeffrey Epstein at the Dalton School.
Does Donald Barr have intelligence connections himself?
Yes, he certainly does, as would be a surprise to all of you, as do all of the storied families of the people who are connected to the most elite private schools here in New York City. So here we have a New York Times report from 2019. Jeffrey Epstein taught at Dalton. His behavior was noticed. And what they talk about specifically is that Epstein, even here in his early 20s, is already exhibiting the pedophile behavior that he becomes known for. He starts harassing a lot of young girls, and in the span of just 1 year, finds himself basically under investigation and departs under weird circumstances after teaching math here at the Dalton School. So the question is, why did Donald Barr hire Jeffrey Epstein, a person at the Dalton School, to teach math despite having no credentials, no college degree? I mean, you can't even get a job at a public school without a college degree and a teacher certification.
Let me ask you
and this
a
is the
question.
first time we see it.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. This is, and I think it's important to just give pushback so we kind of understand.
Sure.
I don't even want to call it pushback. You know, my dad had a college degree. He walks in and he asks if he can be a work in the news station.
Sure.
And so this is back in like the 70s. And he's able to get a job working in the news station. Eventually was on air. So there was a different time. Could teachers just teach at an elite private school?
No, they could not. See,
okay.
That's the thing. So
I'm
no,
glad
they
you
could
pointed that
not.
out.
Not common. The Donald Barr, and by the way, actually departed the school at the very same time as Jeffrey Epstein. The cope from Donald Barr and others, the explanation is that he very often had an unconventional hiring strategy. But, you know, people who attended Dalton and others basically said it was a very weird hire at the time, and nobody still to this day really has an explanation for why. That's the very first known link, and it's weird. Okay, let's just be honest, it's weird. So from 1974 and 1975, we have the departure. So somewhere around 1976, Jeffrey Epstein meets a guy named Ace Greenberg. Ace Greenberg of Bear Stearns. And of course, you guys know, for the younger audience out there, Bear Stearns is one of the most storied investment banks in Wall Street history. Went down in 2008. So Ace Greenberg, whose child goes to Bear Stearns, meets Jeffrey Epstein. Ostensibly, it's some sort of like parent event. So here we have Jeffrey Epstein's deep ties to top Wall Street figures. It talks here about Greenberg.
Just so I can understand.
Yeah.
So Jeffrey Epstein was teaching
at Dalton.
Ace Greenberg's kid at Dalton.
Correct.
Builds a relationship with this Ace Greenberg guy, who is one of the heads of the bank?
Yes, he's the head of the bank, one of the most powerful men on all of Wall Street in the 1970s and 1980s.
Got it.
So Ace Greenberg hires Jeffrey Epstein initially on the options desk. What ends up happening is Epstein's actually not very good at that. So they're like, what's this guy any good at? So they transfer him to basically the high net worth money management desk. And effectively, for the next 5 years, Jeffrey Epstein learns the art and really the art of money laundering. He manages high net worth individuals' money. What he does with that money is he specializes in offshore accounting. And then specifically, what he does is he gets deep in with all of these shadowy figures who are experts in the Cayman Islands and moving money offshores. Now, this is the first known time that he begins to develop the portfolio that will make him very useful for intelligence agencies in the future.
Now, sorry, real quick. Are they moving money offshore to avoid taxes, or
initially it's to avoid taxes? Now, but what we eventually learn is from
Fuck,
the formation
man.
of something called IAG. So
Fucking
after 5
cocksucker.
years at Bear Stearns, Jeffrey Epstein is fired for a regulatory D violation. Basically, he broke internal banking rules and insider trading. So there's two things that we learn here. Number one, he's involved in sketchy behavior from the very beginning. Two, he's not prosecuted. He's basically fired, let go, and everybody keeps it hush-hush. I'll come back to that in the future because he develops a strategy there called playing the box. Playing the box is a strategy he admitted to, where he said you can break the law and you can always get away with it because people will be too embarrassed to be able to call you out for it, which will enable you to continue your money laundering.
Why would they be embarrassed?
Because Bear Stearns would be embarrassed by the fact that they have somebody who is managing so much money inside of their bank.
Was he internally caught?
He was internally caught, and that's why he was.
So SEC doesn't find out. Bear Stearns finds out.
Bear Stearns compliance, and they're like, look, we need to make this go away. We don't want to deal with this anymore. He just needs to go. So from that point forward, 1981, Epstein forms a company called IAG, the Intercontinental Assets Group. I'm going to read directly here from the description. He is a, quote, high-level bounty hunter who helps clients recover assets. This is the first entree into what will eventually sprawl as a global intelligence network, because a high-level bounty hunter who helps you recover money is not involved in, quote, legitimate business.
What does that mean, recover money?
Yeah, exactly. So it's in many cases he eventually gets involved with people who are running Ponzi schemes and basically keeping and hiding money offshore. He sells himself, and it's very unclear because none of the records of this have ever really been released. But the description,
He like saves people on taxes, I'm sure, because they could take the money out, put it in a foreign bank, hold it for you, kind of, and then they just don't pay for the taxes, I'm guessing.
high-level bounty hunter indicates to us that his specialization in offshore banking is one that becomes very important to intelligence networks. So this is where people might ask, like, hey, why do we even care about this? Why would an intelligence network even want offshore banking? And the reason why is in the 1980s, there were all of these very sketchy arms deals that were happening. Here we have in the United States the Iran-Contra affair.
Yeah.
This is the Cold War. And everybody actually has a very distorted attitude as to how the CIA front companies work. Nobody at the CIA has a bank at JP Morgan Chase that says CIA that goes and buys a front company building.
Right.
Did you guys, perfect example, did everyone watch Argo? Did you guys watch the movie?
Yeah.
So remember how Ben Affleck's character flies to Hollywood and gets a front man to open a company and the money is laundered through the front man? That man would be known as a CIA asset because he's able to open that front company. So that's why it's very important to the CIA.
They don't work for the CIA.
Of course
they have their own job.
Exactly. They have their own money. In many cases, they put up their own money.
Exactly.
But eventually get reimbursed somewhere in shady offshore banking thing on the back end. So these are vital parts of any intelligence network, Israeli, U.S., Saudi, everybody.
Because
This
if
is
the
something
CIA's name
everybody
was on
does.
it, then
of
it
course.
wouldn't work as espionage.
Exactly.
Because Iran would be like,
because you
why
have
is
to
the
be
CIA
able to
trying to
hide
make
it.
a movie here?
And then you get Iran-Contra blown up.
That's exactly.
So being
This
a
is
CIA
literally
asset
the story
isn't necessarily in and of itself bad.
No,
it's a necessary.
It's
for the
look,
CIA
it's
to
just
function.
the way that you do business. There's no value judgment here. So the point is that at this time, this is when he begins to develop a relationship in somewhere around between 1976 and.
Damn. This guy has all the information. It's fucking crazy.
With a man named Douglas Leese. Now, Leese is a very important character. Douglas Leese was a UK national. He's a verified in UK government documents as having been involved in multiple arms deals and is thought to have been at least somewhat of a CIA, MI6, some sort of intelligence asset. Douglas Leese is an expert, again, in offshore banking and international money laundering. At the age of 20, I think it's 28, and somebody can check my work on this, is that at the age of 28, Douglas Leese brings a young Jeffrey Epstein on a private plane to the Pentagon for purposes that we still do not know. This is long before Epstein is a billionaire. This is when he's involved specifically in offshore banking. Leese is basically the conduit through which he is then introduced to all of these very important people. Yes, Adnan Khashoggi, who is a very important person in this story. Stephen Hoffenberg, who is basically the source of a lot of this information.
This fat dude is a playboy? Fuck no. This nigga's not a playboy, bro. I mean, this dude is not a playboy. The fuck? He can't even see his own dick. How does he play? Come on now.
Stephen Hoffenberg, and he went on the record to Vicky Ward, who's the journalist who did the original expose on Epstein in 2002. He was convicted of one of the largest Ponzi schemes in U.S. history. What ended up happening is he was trying to con Epstein, but Epstein actually conned him out of $100 million. But he, Stephen Hoffenberg, basically showed the relationship between Douglas Leese and Epstein, which Epstein got very testy about whenever he was asked, basically pretended, I hardly know the guy. Leese is the person who introduces Epstein to Hoffenberg, to Robert Maxwell, and to this Adnan Khashoggi. Now, the reason why all three of those names matter is that Hoffenberg shows the conduit of the way that Epstein was already working with illegal enterprises and offshore banking. The way that he alleges Epstein stole his money was specifically through one of these offshore transactions. The other two names I
So a
just
guy was
listed
running
here.
a Ponzi scheme.
And then he
got
conned him.
caught.
Yeah.
And then wrote a hater article about it.
And actually Epstein cooperated with U.S. authorities against Hoffenberg and basically got him locked up in prison. This was only acknowledged years and years later. I mean, he was a master networker. We have to give it to him. But again, here's another link between the community, Intel, the U.S. government. Jeffrey Epstein, here's a link to offshore banking, and then specifically Adnan Khashoggi and Robert Maxwell. So who are these two individuals? Here he has Adnan Khashoggi. Adnan Khashoggi is the uncle of Jamal Khashoggi, the Saudi journalist who was butchered in the Turkish embassy. But for our purposes, what can we look at here? Saudi arms merchant, world-class playboy dies. This is from his obituary in the Washington Post. So why do we care about Adnan Khashoggi and his association with Epstein? And these are verified ties between the two. Adnan Khashoggi is somebody who worked on all kinds of sketchy arms deals throughout his life. These people are very useful to the Saudi kingdom, to the Israelis, because they are cutouts. They're not officially part of the royal family. Their money is used to finance various different arms deals. He has a verified connection to Mossad and to funneling arms between Israel and Iran in the past. All of this is out in the public record. It's effectively been acknowledged, and I don't even think it's really disputable.
I know that you've spoken about this already, but I just want to make this, I want to make this incredibly clear, right? Where it's like, governments and countries cannot be actively involved in these Cold War tactics.
Exactly.
So they need to find these proxies to do it.
Yes.
And those proxies might not necessarily be bad. Matter of fact, they offer incredible utility.
Absolutely.
So like a Khashoggi, for example, for Saudi Arabia might be one of the most important figures in executing the plans of Saudi Arabia without getting the people in charge of Saudi Arabia dirty. And at this point in time, it's looking like, as we go through the story, Epstein might be an asset to the United States of America, or maybe when we get into Maxwell, or at least it doesn't look like there's anything incriminating on him so far.
No, well, I mean, to be fair, his pedophilia and his proclivities were kind of secondary to his money. Now, the reason why I think he eventually gets away with the stuff that he does in the future is because of all the work he did in the 1980s and the 1990s for these various governments.
I don't want to connect this to like a movie, but there's this movie, Art of War, that Nicolas Cage is in.
Yeah.
And there's this.
I love that movie.
It's a great movie. And it's based on, I think, like a relatively.
It's first on I think that guy we just released from Victor Bout or something like that. Yeah, that's right.
Lord
of
War. I think it's called. Yeah. We got a 6 woman.
Yeah.
For the Lord of War. Yeah.
Right.
And so basically, he goes. There's this moment where he's arrested, and this like guy from the FBI has been holding him down. And he eventually goes, "Hey, listen, somebody's going to come in that door and let you know that it's time for me to go." And he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about, blah blah." And to me, that's kind of what it's feeling like so far, where there could be these connections. And we might get it misconstrued where it's like the government is involved in this like illicit child fucking blackmail scheme, when in reality the government's looking like, no, actually, we're just running guns. And
we're
just
running
following
guns.
dirty money, and
we're funneling stuff between Israel and Iran. This is why, the Saudi government can't facilitate an Israel-Iran arms deal, right? These are all allegedly mortal enemies. But Khashoggi, he can do it. He can finance that deal, and we can make him whole on the back end. Now, go ahead.
And last thing I would say is, I was talking to a friend of mine. I think Morgan Stanley or J.P. Morgan banked him. I forget which one. Was it J.P. Morgan?
At that time?
This is later on.
Well, Deutsche Bank and J.P. Morgan both banked Jeffrey Epstein.
And a friend of mine was working over there, and he basically, I was asking about it. He's like, yeah, like he just operated with dirty money. Yeah. And I think that's why, the government had an eyeball on him, because it was advantageous for them to know who's sending him $30 million from El Salvador. He was the banker, and a lot of these banks will just take dirty money.
Of course they will.
If you're getting tens of millions of dollars from a third world country, please believe it's not because they're selling slushies on the street. There's some fucked up shit going on.
Yes.
So, and I'm just trying to position at this point right now, the government might think that they have an asset working in their best interest. At this point.
This is a rational case for them. We're not yet involved with eventually becomes the pedophilia ring.
Also, guys, tour dates. I'm going to be in Kansas City August 1st and 2nd. August 8th and 9th, I'm going to be in Toledo, Ohio at the Funny Bone. August 22nd and 23rd, it's a lot of fucking Ohio, huh? Liberty Township, September 11th through 13th. Let's hope I don't bomb on those shows. Dania Beach, Florida. Bunch of other dates on my website at akashsing.com.
What's up, guys? Mark Gagnon here. I got some tour dates for you. If you want to skip forward, dude, I'm not going to stop you. You know what I mean? I completely understand. It happens.
All right, suck his dick.
Well, of Ghislaine is
link in bio.
Let's move now to Robert Maxwell. Now, Robert Maxwell is probably one of the most central important figures in this story. Robert Maxwell is the father of Ghislaine Maxwell, and Robert Maxwell is basically an intelligence operative from day one. So Robert Maxwell is a very interesting early life story. He's a Czechoslovakian Orthodox Jew. He flees the Nazis, finds a way to escape from mainland Europe, fighting with the resistance to the UK, fights the Nazis in World War II. He gets the second highest medal from the British government during World War II for his exemplary service and becomes a British national. Changes his name multiple times. What eventually happens, though, is that Robert Maxwell begins to roll up the tabloid news empire. He's a Rupert Murdoch of his time by rolling up tabloid news in the UK and effectively becoming like a sovereign wealth fund in and of itself with his billions. Maxwell is a very committed Zionist and somebody who's very important to the state of Israel. He's been openly acknowledged at this point as a Mossad asset. I have his code name here. Let me find it. He is known as Mega, quote, the bountiful source. This is from a former Mossad operative who described
the Tetris movie?
No, I actually didn't see it.
Yeah, okay. He's a character in the Tetris movie.
Oh, okay. All right.
Like he's personified as himself as part of the story, which is one of the assets that they own. I guess might have been the
Maxwell is, again, just like Khashoggi. He's financing international arms deals. He's very important to Mossad. He's very important to MI6. He's very important to the U.S. intelligence community. But the thing that really puts him apart is that Maxwell is a committed Zionist, and he works specifically on behalf of the state of Israel to advance its interests. And the most extreme example of that, can we put that Wired one up there? It talks about the Inslaw octopus. This is a very important article from the 1990s, and it describes basically a piece of software that Robert Maxwell was integral in both financing and selling to the Department of Justice. And it was Israeli spyware that was installed on vast numbers of U.S. government computers that was used specifically to spy on the United States by Mossad and the U.S. and the Israeli intelligence community.
What year is this?
This was in the early 90s. This is whenever it was exposed. But in the 1980s, this is something that Maxwell was directly
Has there been
involved with.
punitive measures taken for this act?
Actually, I'm not actually sure about this. I mean, as usual, whenever it comes to Israeli
fucking
operations
lucky
on
with that
U.S.
one.
soil, we're all like, hey, you should cut it out. And then we don't really do anything about
There's
it.
a great doc.
Jonathan Pollard is a very good example of this.
There's a doc on Netflix about this, the octopus murders, and this guy Danny Castellero that basically tried to expose this.
Oh,
and
that's
then-
right.
and
I
then
forgot. I had never watched it, but I know
it's fantastic. And then he gets murdered in his attempt to try to expose the Inslaw software.
All right, so there we go. That's Robert Maxwell. He's involved in things like this. But I could actually go on forever.
What did you
like,
say about Pollard?
Jonathan Pollard, you know who that is?
No.
Jonathan Pollard is one of the greatest spies in U.S. history. He was a NSA employee in the 1980s. He was spying on behalf of the state of Israel, selling them secrets. You can, there's a picture of him right
you spoke
there.
about this on Tucker.
Yeah, I did. So he served 30 years in a U.S. prison. While he was here, he became a cause celeb in Israel, saying that he was unjustly persecuted, even though he was a United States citizen, selling secrets to Israel. Bibi Netanyahu
I think he
visited
sold
him.
the secrets to Russia, not
No.
right?
Israel sold the secrets to Russia.
Yeah,
he sold the secrets to Israel. No. He sold the secrets to Israel. Let's be clear.
Okay.
Israel sold them to the Soviet Union. Jonathan Pollard was actually granted Israeli citizenship, I think, in absentia. Bibi Netanyahu visited him in prison here in the United States of America.
Wow.
Basically,
Yeah, always comes back to a certain group. No, I was kidding. I love messing with them. This shit's funny as fuck, though. So, Israel was playing nice with Russia, huh? Damn. We got duped. We got duped, gang.
we're always going to stand with you. The moment his federal probation is up after he's released from prison, after his sentence, he moved to Israel and he's never coming back. So that's a perfect example here of you have a United States citizen spying on behalf of the Israeli government, open caught, it's all admitted out in the open. The Israeli government says, hey, we're friends, like just forgive him. He was just a Jewish patriot doing what he wanted for his country, even though he was not an Israeli citizen there at the time, granted him citizenship, and openly campaigned for all of our presidents of the United States, Bill Clinton onward, to pardon Jonathan Pollard. And they came pretty damn close, let me be clear. So that's another example of how we really treat Israeli espionage very differently than all other espionage on the United States. If you guys remember in the Ted Cruz interview where Tucker was like, it doesn't concern you that Mossad is spying on America? He's like, well, all countries do it. All friendly countries spy on each other. There's an exception that we seem to make here for this country.
Have we been caught spying on Israel?
I don't know if we've ever been caught in a high-profile operation. I mean, I'm sure that we do, and in fact, we probably should, considering what's going on. Actually, you know what? We definitely have been, because I remember there's been documents, leaks from the Israeli cabinet meetings. You remember the Signal Gate, Signal leaks? Yeah. I published some of those documents, and in one of those was actually minutes from the cabinet meeting from Bibi. So yes, we are spying on the Israelis as well. To be fair, we're spying on everybody.
So it's like if we're doing it, like, all right.
Although the Israelis did get kind of upset about that, so it's a little ironic because they got upset whenever we're doing it, but not.
Yeah, I saw Dershowitz saying that, like, we do that, or they do that. Like, he was trying to make it seem like since everybody does it, it's okay.
Right. Yeah, but it's not okay.
It's not okay.
It's like we should all punish. If we
not okay when we do it, it's not okay when you guys do it.
Right.
We're supposed to be allies.
That's right. Okay, so let's continue.
We should do it.
Yeah, we should do it.
Let's continue with
Get away with it.
Robert Maxwell over there.
This guy wants to fucking keep talking. He's there like, shut the fuck up. We're gonna sit down, talk about this for a second. Damn, I just got killed. Oh no, I didn't. Great. I'm about to kill this guy right now.
We're coming back. Robert Maxwell. All right, Robert Maxwell, the father of Ghislaine Maxwell. So this is how Jeffrey Epstein meets Ghislaine Maxwell, his eventual co-conspirator in the child trafficking network. And Robert Maxwell, of course, has a very shady death. Nobody's still really sure how he died. He allegedly either jumped or fell off of his yacht, which, of course, happens to everybody.
Yeah,
I mean, it's somewhat believable, but I mean, it's just one of those things where, you know, he's killed in very, or he dies in very suspicious circumstances. He has all kinds of luminaries at his funerals, and whatever he knew, you know, kind of goes to the grave with him. So after that, in this period, we have 1988. This is probably one of the most important years in the history of Jeffrey Epstein.
Before we move away from Maxwell, can I just tell you a fun little tidbit?
Of course.
I want to get this right, and I have to check spelling and everything on this, but I wish I had. Okay, ready? Right now, I think one of the issues with releasing the Epstein files is because if you release a report that implicates people without them being investigated, that's a concern. And I think in Britain, there's called the FCA. That's their version of the SEC. I'm pretty sure, something like that. So basically, they have a process that you give that person that is named a chance to respond or submit evidence before the report is released so that they can address concerns which might end up altering the report's conclusions about that person. That process is called Maxwellization, and it's named after Robert Maxwell.
That's amazing because it fits with his character and the way that he operated. But that's what I mean.
It's a media magnet.
And look, actually, let's take a second. Why do these tabloids matter? If everybody remembers the whole David Pecker scandal here in America with Donald Trump, it's that they basically they're like private intelligence services. They hoover up all of these stories. They often buy people's silence through non-disclosure agreements, and then they use that as pedigree with the richest people in the world. Like, hey, Donald, we held this story on Karen McDougal, who accused you, so we expect something a little bit in return.
If you own 5 different tabloids, you can print the same story that's allegedly on all of them. Then the other newspaper articles and TV shows, they start picking it up. So before an algorithm, you have to create the trend.
I mean, you're literally describing the New York Post to Fox News pipeline,
I
right?
mean, what are you talking about?
Okay,
this is crazy to make an allegation like that.
That is, I mean, they're owned by Rupert Murdoch. It's out in the open. Many people who work there will tell you that's literally how it works. It doesn't take a genius to figure this stuff out. Oh, let's return to the money. So 1988, very important year in the life of Jeffrey Epstein. He leaves, or basically reforms, IAG. At this point, it's been 7 years. He's very important to many of the world's most influential arms dealers and other people. Almost certainly at this point is embroiled in some of these deals. This point is a very sketchy point because now he creates the J. Epstein Company. The J. Epstein Company, self-described, accepts only clients with $1 billion. This is a year where there are only 140 billionaires in all of his existence in 1988. There's not very many people who are billionaires. And to have $1 billion in cash, liquid, to be able to invest is effectively unheard of. So who are the people that this is ostensibly for? He pitched specifically as, quote, an economic advisor to the super rich. No other services have ever been advertised, and this is the source eventually of all of his wealth. And so it's somewhere around this time in the 1980s and the J. Epstein Company that he signs a client named Leslie Wexner. Wexner, one of the most important figures again in this story, really the source of much of his money and his power to the way that it eventually becomes. Leslie Wexner is one of the richest men in America, one of the richest men in Ohio. Leslie Wexner is a committed Zionist. He's donated and worked with the Israeli government, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Leslie Wexner eventually, in this time period, effectively signs over his entire portfolio and eventually leads to power of attorney being signed over to Jeffrey Epstein. You guys had a great exchange where you were like, hey, we have a decade of friendship here, and I would not sign power of attorney over to any of you. There's only one person I'm signing power of attorney to, my wife. There's nobody else who's ever going to get it.
We're supposed to do that?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm saying if we wanted to. And I'm saying that's the only person who conceivably is ever going to get that.
What about business managers? Do they have power of attorney?
No, or they have a limited power of attorney, and that's very different than his entire control of his estate. So somewhere in this time, in the 88 to 91 period, in just 3 years, he is able to convince this man, Leslie Wexner, multi-billionaire, the founder of Victoria's Secret, to basically sign over all of his power of attorney and control of his assets. Even more importantly, over the next 5 years, he effectively begins transferring many assets from the Wexner fortune to his own personal portfolio. Multiple properties in the state of Ohio, which are actually referenced in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial for the sex trafficking purposes. Those Those are Wexner properties. And then the infamous, massive townhouse in Manhattan, at that time, the largest private residence, basically valued at some $70 million. I mean, again, who in this world is transferring $70 million townhouse, largest private residence at the time, the city of New York, over to this man,
So let's
Jeffrey
make a
Epstein?
steel man.
For what purpose? Go ahead.
Is there a purpose? For example, is he trying to avoid taxes?
Yes.
Is there what? Give me the argument outside of corruption.
Sure. Leslie Wexner has talked to his people, and he's talked to people about this, and his explanation is that Epstein was a money wizard, that he simply had ideas.
that what we call him?
Well, they said he's a wizard with money. He's the smartest man with money I've ever seen. The Steelman case, for how this has nothing to do with blackmail, is exactly what you just said. And this is eventually what's hinted at by the richest and most powerful people in the world is, guys, we were doing money laundering. It wasn't about blackmail or any of this other stuff. It was a way for us to launder our money internationally. I'll come back to it, but that's basically the excuse that Leon Black gave. Leon Black is genuinely one of the richest men in New York. He was $9 billion net worth. Founder of the Apollo Group, one of the largest private equity firms in the world. From 1997 onward, he has a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein to the point where he puts him on the board of the Black Family Foundation. And it eventually comes out between 2012, 2017, he transferred $170 million to Jeffrey Epstein and to Epstein-related accounts
his
for,
argument,
quote, tax advice.
Now, his
That's what he
argument is that over that 5-year period, he gave him $170 million and saved to the tune of $1 billion.
That's what he claims.
What he claims.
Yeah, but
now, if that is the case, all of us would hire Epstein immediately.
Right, that's right. But there's no way to do that legitimately. And also, if you look at all of the paper trail for this, Epstein was not a licensed financial advisor. He was not a licensed tax advice person. He was not somebody who was ever well known in the hedge fund industry. I mean, this is the question about why are these super rich people transferring all of this money to this individual? I'm willing to believe money laundering, but with the Wexner case, I just simply can't get there. Vicky Ward and James Stewart, biographers and others have looked into the story. They really believe that blackmail is somehow at the center of the story of Wexner.
I think that
this is purely speculation on my behalf.
I think
want
that
to make
makes
that
a lot
clear.
of sense, especially for economically ignorant folks like myself, which are like, I'm not giving a fucking townhouse to anybody for any purpose.
Exactly.
But there are these certain situations where people set up these trusts, they set up these LLCs, they set up these S corps so they can put certain to avoid taxes. They create these loopholes. So there is a version where he had found a way to do this. I don't understand why passing it directly to Epstein avoids taxes, because Epstein would then have to pay those taxes.
Right. Yeah,
so
exactly right.
Like, why not put it into a joint trust that Epstein has access to? Why is it specifically passed to Epstein? Unless
for his personal use.
Yes, for
his personal use.
Unless
let's be clear.
He needed it under his name to validate him to do certain
Which
things.
is what eventually we began to see with the story. And also, look, let's be honest here about Wexner. Wexner is the founder of Victoria's Secret. Like, would it be crazy to say the founder of Victoria's Secret is kind of perverted? And Leslie Wexner's been photographed with all these young women.
Lingerie
and
for teenagers.
It's like literally, making lingerie for teenagers. Yeah, well, I'm shocked to be told that this person is involved with some weird stuff. Again, look, because he's still alive and he would sue me, that is purely speculation on my part based upon publicly available information. I am not claiming anything otherwise. But the
don't they
point
have
is,
to go find barely legal supermodels around the world?
I mean, that's their business model, to be clear. So let's just say that.
When do you turn 18 so I can put you on the
Fucking
with
bullshit,
this
bro.
happens, right? So that's the person and the individual who's at the nexus of a lot of this stuff. Now, let's say then what we move from there, because that Wexner transfer sets Epstein as the king of New York, as the king of New York society.
Can I ask one more question before that? Are
That's
there
so
any
bullshit.
people in finance that look at that transfer and they go, wow, this was a smart financial decision for Wexner?
I have not yet found a single person.
Got it.
I have not- in fact, every rich person who I have ever talked with about the Epstein thing has told me I have no idea what the fuck was going on.
And has anybody explained, Wexner or his people explained why it was advantageous to him to
No,
transfer?
he just said it was a terrible mistake and that he trusted Epstein entirely with his money. He literally called his relationship and the transfer, quote, a terrible mistake. That's the only public apology that he's ever given on the case.
It is
Wexner's
interesting.
never gone into it. By the way, he's still alive and he should answer questions.
It is interesting that we haven't seen him in an interview. Like, we've seen
Oh,
Prince,
he shut himself down.
But we've seen Prince Andrew in an interview.
That's right.
Like, he's maybe the only person that we haven't heard speak publicly about this.
A little bit, but you know,
Where?
It's been years. I think in 2020 is when he gave his apology. But same with Leon Black, by the way, who resigned from his public company and has basically disappeared from New York society. Jess Staley, the former CEO of Barclays, Epstein's private banker, I'll return to him in a little bit with the Israel connection, because it's a very important part of that story. But he's also resigned, and now he has he's not CEO of a publicly traded company, doesn't need to testify, doesn't need to give any interviews. He's filthy rich, and you know how these people operate. You can hire bodyguards and live behind a wall for the rest of your life. So that's basically where we are.
With Maxwell Sr. and when Epstein and him meet, did they do any business together that we know of?
Here we go.
So this is the problem. We don't have the full records, and this is part of the why the release of the files is very important. And I will also return where I think defining the files as a list is very important,
nigga.
because that's not how it works. People seem to have it in their head that there's a ledger, that there's a black book that's like paid or have kitty tape. Supports Israel now. It's not how this works, guys. Like, as a journalist, like, what we're doing...
Oh, that's how you play the game, baby. That's how you fucking win, bro. You see that fucking play I did? I put the cape on fucking little worm, turned to big worm. He tried to kill it, had 10 life left, because he thought he didn't need anything for my cape to come off. He thought he didn't need Guzma, right? 150. Now I'm down to 10 life. I already knew I was gonna win. At that point, put the extra energy on him. Hit that motherfucking button. Hit him for 112. All right, hit him for 120 damage. That's how you fucking play the game, baby. Damn, that was fucking sexy.
We're compiling information. We're looking at public stuff that cannot be explained otherwise. We're steel manning the case. We're reaching out to Leslie Wexner for comment. The IRS today, as you guys all know, has all of our information. All of the Butterfly Trust accounts connected to Jeffrey Epstein.
What's a Butterfly Trust?
That was an Epstein linked account, which the New York Financial Services, by the way, you guys should take this up. Here in the state of New York, they have all access to Epstein's financial records 2013 onwards, because they fined Deutsche Bank for their business with Epstein for violating the bank rules and for violating New York State regulations. New York State has the books for his entire financial life, 2013
and didn't JP
onwards.
Morgan pay out an insane
JP and Deutsche Bank paid like $75 million to the Epstein victims, specifically for facilitating a lot of this trafficking. But my point is that I want those documents. I want the Butterfly Trust accounts. Leon Black, the way that he even paid Epstein, and this was only available by subpoena power that we know of, was through some private jet holding company. I mean, this stuff is all masked in a way that their names were never supposed to be on top of any of it. The only way we can get it is from release and from subpoena from the United States government. Part of why the Trump administration's decision is so very disappointing.
And so I know I keep cutting.
No,
I
it's
just
fine.
want to make sure that I understand this. Like, it seems so brazenly foolish for these people to even be tangentially connected to Epstein.
Well,
and again,
not before this time.
I don't want to be giving them an out, but I want to be really understanding the situation. If you are operating with somebody who uses, you know, nefarious techniques to hide money, which I do not put past any wealthy person.
No.
Anybody who's got tens of millions of dollars, I promise you they are doing some shady shit to hide that money, to move that money. Like, I know a guy who, like, would fly to the fucking Bahamas with tens of thousands of dollars strapped to his body. It sounds like out of a movie. He would do it regularly.
Why are you snitching on me like that?
These guys.
You guys all know him. I just want so there was a regular thing to just avoid taxation, setting up accounts back in, I think this is probably like the 80s. This is not as so doing these things to avoid taxes is quite common amongst the people who makes tens, 20, hundreds of millions of dollars. But doing it so directly with Epstein is what I find peculiar. And there's a part of me that goes, if they're doing it directly with him, do they not feel concern about his relationships and intentions? Is there some sort of trust there? Because, like you said earlier, the CIA knows they're on some fuck shit, so they're like, we got to make sure that we're not associated with this. Why would you not?
Well, that's a great question. Especially,
you know what I'm saying?
I don't. If he's been operating for a decade now and he hasn't been caught, hasn't gotten in any trouble, it's like, oh, this guy's good.
That's the defense I would make, is that in pre 2005, before the investigation, it's actually somewhat understandable for somebody who is not in Palm Beach or New York society. I would say more in the 1980s. From about 95 onward, it's an open secret. Jeffrey Epstein likes kids. Jeffrey Epstein likes them.
When does he
in
first
the
get
words.
caught? I
So
thought it's
2005. That's the very first investigation into Epstein. The
Got it.
actual law enforcement
So
investigation.
we could
Yeah.
make the argument that
Yeah.
before that,
Yes.
it's greed.
Well, yeah. Again, though, because all of these people live, this is as you're saying, the super rich is the smallest is the smallest group in the world.
Yeah.
They
Especially
may
back
live
then,
all over
yeah.
the world, but they're actually all in the same place, basically all at the same
Yeah,
time.
they're doing all the
They're
jet
always in
setter
St. Barts.
events. Yeah,
they're always
exactly.
in London.
Yeah.
They're always, Tahoe, whatever, like Palm Beach. This is why they all know each other. So, to a certain extent, I actually can't really forgive it because it's such an open secret in the 1990s that Jeffrey Epstein likes little kids, basically, and is
before the
trafficking young
90s.
women. Well, before the 90s, yeah, I guess we could give them somewhat of a pass, but it starts to become out in the
I'm
open.
not trying to give a
Yeah,
pass. What
yeah.
I'm trying to do is like not be guilty of internet trends.
Yeah, sure.
Which is like applying something we learn about and is confirmed in 2005 and 2008 with a conviction to everyone prior to
Yeah,
that.
fair.
I think after 2005 and definitely after 2008, like you're aware that you're dealing with a convicted pedophile.
So
that
you're
got a
literally a
sweetheart.
registered sex offender.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
so it's
registered sex
There's no excuse.
Yes.
But before that, I do think that there are these people that just want money and they'll do anything for money, and they are already operating in pseudo illegal behaviors and activities. And there's this incredible desire and thirst for power, so they might be willing to rub shoulders with these nefarious characters.
And if there's some, before 2005, there's some level of plausible denial.
There is some. Yeah,
Even
exactly
if they do
right.
know,
And
they're
if-
like, he's not.
And if he's like, I could save you $1 billion, you might be tempted to take
Yeah, but
that plausible
see, this is the
deniability.
thing. You're taking it literally, and I'm still not quite sure that I'm there yet. I'm not quite sure he actually was doing anything of the tax advice sort. I still don't know.
Good.
Yeah, I still am like not clear on what he was actually doing.
I don't think anybody's clear.
Nobody's
on what
clear.
he's
That's
doing.
part of the problem.
Which is what's
Yeah.
so. But I want to make
Yeah.
sure that when we're pinning people to certain things, like if you're staying in his penthouse after he's a registered sex offender, you're pinned. Like
Yeah.
there's you have
Like
no
the Prime Minister of
excuse for-
Israel?
Exactly.
Oh, sorry? Yeah,
Multiple
yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Like Bill Gates.
Yeah, like Bill Gates.
Didn't he have an office in Harvard?
Yeah.
Was that after?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I'd have to go back and double check.
But
yeah.
again, those things like let's pin it right there. There's
Yeah.
no question. You have
George
staff that's-
Stephanopoulos who had dinner
It's-
at his
why
house?
are you hanging out? Like,
Yeah.
like
Can't
you're-
do some Google?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you should because
aren't you
you're
a
journalist.
Yeah,
exactly. So okay. So there are these. I get it. I just want to make sure that we're compartmentalizing a little bit. Not to say that they don't know that they're engaging in
Come
illegal
on, buddy.
activity.
Come
they
on
just
down.
maybe aren't going, I'm with a kid fucker
Yes.
who's using this as potential blackmail or as an intelligence asset.
Very true. And that's important. So let's get into actually
let's
sex trafficking and actually that whole ring.
Don't
So-
let me speed you up.
No, you're fine.
On your...
So 1991 to 2005, I call this the Epstein heyday. So this is, I've gained control of the Wexner empire. I've transferred these assets and these properties into my name. Ghislaine is here. And now it's on. So if you look from that, the Ghislaine Maxwell trial describes many of these Ohio properties being used specifically for sex trafficking purposes, right? So these are just in late 1994, late 1995. Basically moved from that point forward. The Palm Beach, Virgin Islands, connection begins to materialize. We have the house in Palm Beach. We have the compound in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The
That's
Lolita
Epstein's
Express.
Island,
That's
right?
the Epstein Island.
Yeah.
We have the Virgin Island that's acquired under the Epstein basically estate. Then we have the Lolita Express that's purchased, the private jet. So all the pieces that are now famous, these all come into play between 91 and 2005. This was the heyday of the Epstein empire.
And is this where you see the images of him and Trump hanging
Yes,
out?
exactly. 2002, that's when we have the first image. Although, I have it in my notes for the Trump-Epstein relationship. Let me go ahead and find that.
Don't let me speed you
no,
up.
No, it's
you
fine.
stay on this.
So 2002, Trump says, I've known Jeff for 15 years. So basically putting the relationship back to the 1980s. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do. Many of them are on the younger side, no doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life. So that's Donald Trump in 2002. Just again, to show everybody here what we're dealing with for the open secret. All right, so yeah. He likes him on the younger side. He said it. And if you want, there's video if you want to go ahead and play it. I have the YouTube link from NBC News of them hanging out. Let me find, footage from 1992, actually. Can you go ahead and click that one? It's a YouTube link. It's from a NBC News package in 2002. It's some B-roll that actually shows them hanging out. So
This
here
is
we
a-
go. Yeah, this
yes,
is the
seen
this is the
this.
famous You know, they're all hanging out together. And by the way, I haven't showed this yet, but there are photos of Trump and Robert Maxwell hanging out together as well in the past. So he certainly knew a lot of these individuals. We can see him dancing. They're at a party. Apparently in the mid-2000s, there was a party that was thrown involving Victoria's Secret models that was put on by Epstein and another associate of Donald Trump, where they all hung out. So just putting that out
who
there.
that other guy?
Yeah, I actually don't know. I love his tie. It's very 1990s. So anyway, look, the footage, it all exists, and I'm sparing nobody here. I want to be very open.
To your earlier point, the super rich, the super elite is kind of a small circle.
It's
not kind of incredibly small circle.
They all know each other.
So
if
in 15 years,
hanging out,
you're gonna hear some whispers about one of your friends.
It's not even a whisper. He said it out loud on the record.
Trump said it. He just said it. All right, guys, we got to take a break real quick because America is.
Damn, bro. I mean, if your money is stuck with them already, he has your information on what you're doing illegally. How are you gonna tell him anything bad? You know, like, he's fucking kids, but I'm embezzling money. And once you're fucking in, you can't get out because he's gonna rat on you. He has intel on you, you know? And then Mossad has intel on you.
$5 for shipping. Now let's get back to the show.
2002. Yes. Very important year in the Epstein story. Yeah. 2002 is when journalist Vicky Ward, she works here in New York City, Vanity Fair magazine.
This is the Vanity Fair article.
This is the very first premier magazine to say, who is this guy?
Yes.
Graydon Carter, the legendary Condé Nast editor, king of New York society. It basically works with Vicky and says, hey, let's go write about this Epstein figure. Vicky eventually uncovers evidence of the young women trafficking, of the intelligence community ties, and all of this in 2002.
How does she uncover this?
Because she does a great job. She goes and interviews these people. That guy, Stephen Hoffenberg, who's in prison. She interviewed him in prison, and she didn't print his quotes until 20 years later because it was shut down by Graydon Carter. Now, Joey, can you please put up the story from New York Magazine?
Tell us why Graydon Carter would be able to? I understand the name Condé Nast, but maybe explain.
What I'm having here in front of me is a very crazy story. Is that according to Carter, somebody put a bullet outside of his house. I think it was either outside of his house or wherever he was, and a dead cat to intimidate him while he is investigating the Epstein story. Wow. So it eventually comes out.
What is Condé Nast?
Condé Nast, I mean, they own Vogue. They employ, you know, if anyone's ever seen The Devil Wears Prada, like that's based on Vogue magazine, and Anna Wintour, that's part of the Condé Nast empire.
The Condé Nast empire, imagine with Rupert Murdoch, with news stations,
exactly.
This is with magazines.
Actually, dude, it's so hard because the audience here is going to be young, so they don't even remember the Vanity Fair heyday. Like, this was a big fucking deal.
Before blogs, before like your favorite Instagram page, there were magazines.
This was the beating heart of American culture. Vanity Fair magazine, The New Yorker, Vogue magazine.
Newspapers were information, and magazines were more like op-ed. Right?
Yeah, magazines were not just op-ed. They were actually the places where this type of journalism, I mean, there's stories at Condé Nast about guys were getting paid $500,000 a year. They would write 3 stories a year. But they would spend 6 months like Vicky Ward.
Because it was real investigative journalism.
It would change the face of the country.
Some of my favorite journalists. There's a guy named Dexter Filkins at the New York. He spent like 6 months. One of my favorite war reporters. They'll go out and report for 6-7 months.
There's conspiracy theories about
like a 10,000 word article.
Theoretically, Watergate, whatever the conspiracy, conspiracy theories aside, that's journalists breaking a story that caused a president to resign, changed the trajectory of the entire world.
And now when it happens and you see like a 20-page article in the New Yorker or something like that, you're like, who the fuck reads this? And nobody really reads it. But at the time...
Oh, it was everything.
And that's why like our parents, and I think that we're probably a little bit even too young us. Maybe you, just because you're involved in journalism so much.
I have read about it, so I can contextualize it, but I never experienced it.
But this was the heyday of like information, and it created habitual reading, right? Just my parents had a subscription to New York Magazine and New Yorker, and like every single, when is it coming? It's weekly? Yeah.
It used to be. I don't know anymore.
But it's like, so they're reading it every single, and the pieces that are in there, the assumption was that these were like real investigative journalism pieces, and they're uncovering truths that take months and months to put together. So they really gained like the support and trust, at least of maybe like, I don't want to say, like more like coastal elites.
It's what you just described, the global elite. The global elite is very small. It's like maybe 10,000 people who run the entire world. And actually that might even be a little bit generous, and they're all subscribing to Vogue. I mean, look, Anna Wintour is still an icon amongst the super rich. So like, obviously it really matters. So Epstein basically uses the threat of legal action to shut down any mention of his intelligence ties, which he's confronted with directly, any mention of the sex trafficking and of pedophilia accusations, and all of it is dropped from the Vanity Fair article that culminates in the 2002 story, Who is Jeffrey Epstein, the Mysterious Man of New York? But it insinuates things about being with women, and he knows everybody. He's friends with Harvey Weinstein. He's friends with all of, New York society. Everybody seems to know him. You have the quotes by Donald Trump and others. And so what we see there is 02 is a very important year because it shows his power to shut down Graydon fucking Carter, his power to bring the Condé Nast Empire to bear and say no.
Damn, bro. Dude, Epstein was moving, bro. This guy was fucking juking and jiving, and he killed himself in a cell? I fucking doubt that, bro. Someone narcissistic like that, they ain't going out like that. Someone fucking did it to him.
No, you're not reporting any of this. The power of using Harvey Weinstein and others to basically call all the journalists and other people around him and say, I'm going to sue the shit out of you if you report even one word of this.
Now, it's important to note that, like, shutting down stories is quite...
Person calls you and try to call them back. Fuck, dude. What has society come to?
Your call has been forwarded.
If you have a PR agency or something like that,
well,
they
especially
might-
at that time.
At this time,
when
but even-
access really mattered.
I would even say now, like you have a PR agency or something's about to release on TMZ, and you know somebody over there at TMZ, you're like, yo, can you just not put out this
if you
story?
hold this, I'll give you an exclusive on
Catch and
this.
kill.
In the
But
future.
there's a quid pro quo,
Yeah.
which is like, if you don't release this, I'll give you the first dibs on this story coming
Bingo.
out with this album release. So it is quite common practice. But to shut down a story that's making an allegation or multiple allegations this big, you need to have some serious weight and some serious quid pro quo.
Yes.
I think it's got to be more than just lawsuit, because these people, I mean, they're lawyered up to the gills. Like, if you run Condé Nast,
that's what I was trying to say. To understand how extraordinary this is Condé fucking Nast
This
in
is a
02.
massive. I mean,
Dude, even me and you and others, when people are like, I'm going to sue you, I'm like, yeah, good fucking luck. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, I've got insurance. I'm like, and I know how the First Amendment works, and New York Times versus Sullivan, I'll be like, I'm going to eat your fucking legal fees for lunch, and I'll see you in court. All right? Because of the legal standard, if you are a public figure, like Epstein was basically at that time, the bar for defamation and libel is so incredibly high. I actually really support that. I mean, it's one of my key differences with Trump is I think it's a good thing because it allows for
Investigative journalism.
Well, not just that. We can fucking go for
Well,
it. We
I
can
want to
go
be
for
famous
it
and
without
I'm insecure,
fear.
so let's not.
Yeah. He's like, let's not get carried away here.
We'll get into that in another time.
And then why does he agree to this article? Is it just hubris?
Epstein?
No,
No,
he
he
tried
didn't
to
agree
shut
to
the
it.
article
Vicky
down.
Ward was assigned. Epstein did not want this to happen.
Oh, really?
He never wanted
They
any of this to come
changed
out.
the article
Yes.
to make it less
Exactly,
accusatory
less
and
salacious. You
salacious.
can actually go and read it
I don't
today.
think we're understanding how crazy this is. He intimidated Graydon Carter basically to
Yes.
take out a lot of the salacious
To take
things
out the intelligence.
with a fucking bullet and a dead cat.
Yes.
We've seen The Godfather.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
It's literally mob
Instead of a
behavior.
horse's head, it's a dead
It's crazy.
cat.
And there's no way to prove that he was the one that did it, but having those...
He's not. Listen, Graydon certainly believed it, and
Yes.
Graydon works and has dinner with the most powerful people in all of
Has
New
he
York.
spoken about this
He
since?
is certainly not. He has not actually answered a whole lot of questions about this. So that's an important thing.
But does he give
Certainly.
comment to Vicky Ward here?
Huh? Epstein goes on the record in some places, but we don't learn the full extent of all of their exchange until
Yo,
2020.
what's up? You're on the stream with my chat. What's going on?
Chat.
Yeah, you're live on stream, baby. This is your time. This is your time to beat somebody. What's up?
Good morning. This is Mason Sierra with Custom Concrete and Custom Foundations.
Woo! My boy put in the plugs. I like that.
Hi.
Hey, this is the best concrete guy you're ever gonna find in Colorado, all right?
Or California.
Or well, let's not get carried away here. You know, I'm trying to help you out, brother. You're making me go kind of wild on that one.
Put my money where my mouth is. I'll bet anyone's check on it, bro.
Woo! I like that. What you up to?
I'm about to drive back to California.
So, are we gonna kick it this time, or are you gonna light a chat again?
Am I what?
Are you-
Allowed to chat?
Yeah, well, the chat. You know, people in chat rooms.
Oh.
So, are we gonna kick it, or are you gonna lie again, bro?
am I gonna chat? Yeah. Oh, you're gonna tear me up like those guys who do on the chat.
Yeah. I got you.
I don't have that. I don't have that sense of morale.
Well, so you're coming back to California, 13-hour drive, and then what's your plan for this weekend? What are we gonna do together, bro?
I don't know. I might just do a turnaround trip.
You might just do a turnaround?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go get my son and then probably come back.
That's good. Sun is always good.
Yeah, I gotta come back and get this money, son.
That's understandable.
There's nothing out there. There's nothing in California for me.
There's plenty to do on the weekends in San Diego.
You're the only one that called me, but you know I can't do weekends anymore.
Yeah, you can.
Well, if you come out here,
We'll get a sitter.
yeah. But then I don't see my son.
Oh, that's right. Can't drink with the sun, guys. Can't drink with the sun. It's not good for us.
Well, my son is just more important than anything else.
Damn, more important than chat?
Yeah, more important than anything.
Alright, guys, you heard it here. Mason does not love you as much. Alright then, brother. Well, we're covering the Epstein case right now on Flagrant. Dude, it's so good. If you want to join us on video, it's fucking good. Hey, you got a long drive. Might as well join me till 12 o'clock.
Yeah. The only thing is, well, you know what? I got Wi-Fi on the truck.
There you go. Plug it in.
But for like the next couple hours, after an hour, I lose fucking all service for like 2 hours.
Hey, what's that one? Plug it in. You know?
No.
There you go. Alright, champ. Well, pleasure talking to you. I'll talk to you soon again. Alright?
Alright, peace.
I'll see you in chat. Peace out.
After he's dead, when she begins to reveal a lot of the stuff that she was actually had on the record in this story. So this is the very first known time of a major expose which would have really hurt Jeffrey Epstein if it had come out, that he's able to shut down. Eventually in the future, we see the same tactics with Good Morning America and with the Prince Andrew story, if you'll recall, of that famous video, the leaked video from CBS or ABC News, where she's like, I had this story, I had everything, and the palace shut it down. And Epstein and all of them basically came together, and we didn't want to lose our coverage of the royal wedding, and so we didn't publish any of this. And she's like, I had the story from day one.
We didn't want to lose our coverage of the royal wedding.
Exactly.
So we shut this down.
The Prince Andrew story.
We would have access to the royal wedding.
Yes.
So again, that's the quid pro quo. It's like, if you want to work with us, if you want access to this story that you know is going to probably sell way more ads than your Prince Andrew.
The royal wedding was fucking huge. You remember that?
So
women in America got up at like 5 a.m. to watch it. Or
yeah, which is
which is wild.
embarrassing.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
But Alex, go. It's good to ask questions about this.
Yeah.
I think we feel guilty asking because it looks like we're trying to create it out. I'm not trying to create it out.
I'm trying to
understand the totality of this and like where they would be coming from if they were going to defend it. So ask your question.
You said that's 2002. When she's working
That
on the
story came out in 2002.
But then
it was published in March 2003, but it was reported throughout 2000.
But then she doesn't release the other part of the story until
after
20 years later.
Yeah, basically
like,
after he's dead.
That means you knew he was fucking kids.
Well,
and you sat on it.
Well, she didn't have evidence, man. We're journalists. We can't say these things. No. See, this is very important. I can't just come out. Yeah, I can't just come out and say these things without evidence. You need to. And look, I talked about
done it to Mark many times.
But I talked about the barrier, the defamation stuff. Like, you need to have some stuff on the record, and she did not have enough that they felt comfortable going forward with something like that.
I thought they felt comfortable. I thought they just took it out because of the intimidation.
They're claiming that it didn't meet the evidentiary standard. Vicky Ward says otherwise. Like, look, I could see the case either way, but the point is that what's come out afterwards is that Graydon Carter was terrified, and so it's not really about the story. It's that he was afraid to be able to publish this. So that is the context of his social power.
Afraid for
he seemed to be he was afraid for his life.
But okay, because these are different things. Afraid for your life is different than afraid for the success of your, what would you call that? Like
his magazine.
His magazine.
Yeah, his social cachet. His cachet.
And because if you lose access, you essentially have no cachet.
Right.
And which is ironically what Epstein is concerned about. If Epstein becomes persona non grata because of this piece, he no longer can do the thing that he does, which is connect and liaison with super wealthy and influential people.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. So that gets us to 05. So 91 to 05 is the heyday. 2005 is the first time that we really know about of a prolonged investigation into Epstein, and eventually culminates in the sweetheart deal of 2008. So in 2005, a 14-year-old girl who was lured by Epstein, Maxwell Associates, and all these people, her father complains to the Palm Beach Police Department about being sexually abused by Jeffrey Epstein. This leads to an undercover investigation by Palm Beach PD, where they launch this investigation where they're able to connect multiple underage girls who are being lured by Epstein and Maxwell and other associates to the compound in the well-oiled system. There's a documentary on Netflix. This is the part they actually did quite well, of just showing the way that all worked. Search warrant finds hidden cameras, sex toys, basically proof of underage communications with Epstein. They have him nailed dead to rights, probably 20 years or whatever, under state law. However, Epstein hires all of these extremely filthy rich lawyers who are able to go to the Palm Beach Police Department. They claim that they were poking holes in their case. Palm Beach PD basically throws up their hands and they're like, look, I can't handle this shit. They're like, this is a level of, this is a machine I'm going up against that I don't know how to combat this machine. They only have a bulletproof charge on him of solicitation of prostitution, but they go to the feds. Now, the feds, of course, have the vast resources of the federal government, the Department of Justice. The person who's in charge at that time is a guy named Alex.
This guy almost lost crazy. Oh, I almost had that.
Costa. Alex Costa, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern Florida. Now, U.S. Attorney for Florida, this comes under his purview. This investigation is launched under him using FBI resources.
All right, I need to take a piss real quick. Hold on. I need to take a piss so bad. Hold on. I'm going to go use the restroom. I'll be right back. Let me put on a video for y'all. Shit.
How you really feel watching me on my grind, babe? How you really drill hazy with the pop light? How you really feel? Waste away as time flies. How you really drill? Tell me how I don't shine. Tell me how I don't show. Posting as I roll slow. Catch me as I whipping in the foreign as I smoke draw. Yeah, you people don't know. Pleasure pour on my soul. Show to keep me breathing, so I flex it on my old hoes, yeah. Ring ring, I call up glad to see my name. Pick up, you wake up to hang out with fame. First to the Molly, then next is the Kane. Down with the pregame, then switch up the Zanes, yeah. Money on eyes, word up nice, shining so nice, blessing my life, yeah. Money on eyes, word up nice, shining so nice, blessing my life, yeah. How you really feel watching me on my grind, babe? How you really drill hazy with the pop light? How you really feel? Waste away as time flies. How you really drill? Tell me how I don't shine.
All right, we're back. Sorry, I had to take a piss.
Are able to develop a large case against Jeffrey Epstein. The operation is called Operation Leap Year, that is launched by them. Leap Year uncovers evidence that Epstein has an interstate sex trafficking operation involving girls as young as 13 years old. Jeez. Now, this is a very important point. We have a secret federal indictment that was issued against Jeffrey Epstein, where they lay out all of this evidence for a sweeping indictment, which would have put him behind bars probably for the rest of his life. This is where everything starts to happen. this is where the sweetheart deal comes into play. And it's at this point, after this secret federal indictment, that they come to the Epstein team and they're like, this is what we have on you. Let's begin a negotiation, because they're looking for a plea deal ultimately.
Why are they looking for a plea?
Well, I think it's I think it's kind of customary where you bring, you know, when the feds investigate you, they have to send you a target letter. They're like, hey, you're under federal investigation. You need to hire counsel, you know, just so we can get this whole ball rolling. I mean, something like 95% of people charged by the federal system plead guilty. So it's quite common. Most people don't go to trial. The feds don't want you to go to trial. If they do, they're going to smack your, you know, they'll hit you with charge after charge, or you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. The vast majority of people in federal prison.
And that's why they have the 95% conviction rate.
That's why they have their conviction rate. Exactly. So that's how they get to it, you know, and there's a variety of systemic issues. So it was all generally par for the course up until this point. That's when Epstein hires Alan Dershowitz. That's when he hires all these Bush-connected officials.
Why
all
is
of these
Dershowitz
others.
Bush connected?
Well, no, not Dershowitz. There are other lawyers on the team who are connected to George W. Bush, or the administration, to Republican politics in general, because George W. Bush is the president at this time. And it's at this time that you have the sweetheart, non-prosecution...
Dang, it goes all the way George W. Bush? Bro, this fool's been fucking going.
That is agreed upon by Alex Acosta and the Epstein legal defense team. Now, at this time, too, this is a very important point. Joey, can you please put up my tweet? Epstein flees to Israel while he negotiates his deal with Acosta. So if you go to the first slide there, please. Yes, this is from a Vicky Ward story. Talk that Epstein had moved himself and his assets to Israel had reached the ears of such luminaries as Harvey Weinstein, Jeff Bezos, Alex Gibney, Taylor Hackford, Dustin Hoffman, Alec Baldwin, and filmmaker Michael Mailer. Has anyone told Vicky Ward? I heard someone say. Fame. Ever since I wrote this article about Epstein in the March 2003 story, I've had dubious honor of being considered the New York expert on the case. Well, I've never been one to leave a riddle unsolved, so I called Epstein's office to ask. Around lunchtime, he phoned me, laughing, assuming he'd been in Israel, but assuring me he'd been in Israel, but was now back in New York. And he says, would you want to live in Israel? As he denigrates that. So he goes to Israel while this sweetheart deal is being negotiated. This is very important, okay? Again, very important, is that he was safe.
Back to the motherland, bro. Back to Mossad. Please help me.
In Israel for reasons that remain unknown to us to this day.
Mossad.
They can't leave the country if they're under
and
investigation.
actually, yeah, Joey, can you go to the
That's
next
not a
slide
thing
there?
the government
So
will
when
allow,
he
right?
returns to America, as you can see right there, April 2008, Epstein returns from Israel before pleading guilty. Some question why he was allowed to even keep his passport while his team is undergoing negotiation with the federal government.
Can you explain how normal that is?
That is not normal.
Yeah.
So that is extremely not
If
normal.
you have money like that, you're a flight risk.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so while you're being federally investigated, they will take your passport because you're a flight. It's very similar to what happened, I think, at least in the beginning of the Diddy trial. Remember, there was the words like Diddy was going to flee, and I think that they told him that he had to stay in America, right?
So I don't have the. So to be clear, I don't think it's while investigation. There are other. I'm not a lawyer, but the way I'd read about it is it was very uncommon at that time, especially after you agreed to plead guilty. Because remember, he agrees to plead guilty under a non-prosecution agreement in September 2007. This is April 2008. During this period, he is in Israel, where he's going to plead guilty.
2007 or 2008?
So 2007 to 2008 is while he is in Israel. Again, basically, the theory was, the open talk in New York society that Vicky Ward heard, is that Epstein had moved himself and all his assets to Israel. This is apparently, by the way, a common thing, relatively common, for pedophiles who are Jewish in the United States who actually have fled to Israel to escape prosecution.
Really?
So it's a thing that Jewish pedophiles go to Israel. Fucking assholes. How many of y'all out there? Fucking trash. You know what? Fuck this, dude. Let's get deeper.
Actually, Joey, can you go down? Glenn Greenwald.
That is a bad look for Israel, dude.
How Jewish American pedophiles hide from justice in Israel.
Why do they accept it?
Well, Israel has the right to return for every Jew in the world. It's called Aliyah.
So they're taking
any
advantage
Jewish
of like a
some of them are taking advantage and basically being able to go to Israel. It's complicated as well in terms of extradition agreements, etc. But Glenn Greenwald flagged that piece to me: how Jewish American pedophiles hide.
But
from
sorry,
justice.
just to try to understand this, is that something that the United States just allows for anybody?
I actually don't
Because
know.
I know
I only learned of it yesterday. I didn't realize that it wasn't just Epstein, that there's just actually like a common enough phenomenon that people have written a story about it before. I need to go look into it. In general, I would hope personally that we use our influence with all allies or any extradition agreement, that anybody charged with a crime like this against children be immediately extradited to the United States of America.
Because I mean, look, my friends.
You know damn well Israel don't do that shit.
In trouble with the Indian government over the joke. They took their passports.
Yeah.
They just got them back. But like, I don't even know if one of them got them back. You're under arrest for freedom of speech potentially. We're going to trial. You have my passport. This guy is on trial for pedophilia.
Not on trial. He's in. He
He's
didn't,
under
didn't go to
investigation.
trial.
I apologize.
Yeah, investigation and eventually a non-prosecution agreement, which is different because he admits to pleading.
So he hasn't been
That's
charged yet?
It had not been charged yet. He enters the non-prosecution agreement in September 2007.
While he's here or while he's away?
While he's in Israel.
So
okay?
while he's in Israel, he enters. So
his legal team enters
but
on his behalf.
He had already left. What I'm trying to understand, did he do anything illegal by leaving?
No, I don't think so.
Or
I don't think he did
anything that's
anything
not
illegal.
normal.
It's more about the question of why do you feel so safe in Israel? You know, and it's like why are you going over there with all your assets? Did you get some promises there from the government?
But are you
because of
normally
your
allowed to
past
leave the
intelligence
country?
connections? Again, if you look at that Palm Beach story, that scroll up, Joey, and again put that screenshot about returns from Israel to the next one. It was noted at the time. This is a report from the Palm Beach local news that it was uncommon and that there were questions at the time why he was allowed to keep his passport.
Obviously, it looks incredibly fucked up.
Yeah.
But I am trying to steel man in terms of, let's say that there was somebody that had dual citizenship to Britain. They're being investigated for something. Could they go stay in Britain?
Yeah, they can.
Until, so that would be okay and maybe not common, but it would be legal.
Although you just made an important point there, is that we have never yet been acknowledged that Epstein ever was an Israeli citizen. So we have no idea whether
Is he at that time?
We have no idea. To this day, we don't know. We do know that he was found with false passports
Well,
that were inside of his house in New York City. So it's possible to say
Legal.
Although you just made
so that would be okay and maybe not common, but it would be legal.
Although you just.
But I am trying to steel man in terms of, let's say that there was somebody that had dual citizenship to Britain. They're being investigated for something. Could they go stay in Britain?
Yeah, they can.
Until, so that would be okay and maybe not common, but it would be legal.
Although you just made an important point there, is that we have never yet been acknowledged that Epstein ever was an Israeli citizen. So we have no idea whether
Is he at that time?
We have no idea. To this day, we don't know. We do know that he was found with false passports that were inside of his house in New York City. So it's possible he even.
What do you mean?
Yes. Yeah. Can you Google it, please, Joey? Epstein passports that were found at his New York City residence. This is an open and acknowledged fact, and I'll come back to this because it's part of the intelligence case. Who the fuck has false passports? It's not exactly a easy thing for multiple passports and travels to Africa and to the Middle East, and they were found in his residence in his New York City.
Guys, did Jason Bourne and kid fuckers?
Yeah.
I never understood false passports because everything's connected to the
that's
internet.
right.
It's like
Which
some-
means that there's no really such thing as a false passport,
Yeah.
and there's a passport that's issued to you under false pretenses by foreign governments. So it's just
Or by your own government.
or possibly by your own government.
Like
That, I didn't.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. In the
Wow.
age of the barcode, there's no false passport. Okay. All right. And
Wow.
when's the last time you guys flew into America? Do you know how much biometric data and all that stuff is there?
it's
It's like,
like-
this is not happening.
But like CIA can issue passports.
Yeah, CIA can issue a passport under that will clear State Department. I mean, look, even
Which
if you,
would confirm the connections to intelligence.
Exactly.
So,
look,
go.
No, I was just saying, when you land in any country in the world, even the jankiest country in the world at this point, everybody's swiping the passport.
Yeah.
It's
so,
all there.
So then the question would be, or the logical thinking would be, goes to Israel, and while this deal is being negotiated, if the deal is not advantageous to him,
I'm staying in Israel.
then he's staying.
Staying in Israel.
Now,
Wow.
does he have enough leverage where staying in Israel is actually a threat to the U.S. intelligence apparatus?
This is unfortunately, we still don't know, because this is all part of the unreleased, perhaps, Epstein files, and I would be happy to be wrong.
So in one circumstance, it could be as simple as, I'm not living in America as a pedophile.
Right.
I'd rather just live over here.
I'd rather live in Israel.
I'm going to stay.
Yeah.
And there is no intelligence involved. There is another version where it's like, hey, I'm going to go over here. Do you want me to tell all these guys everything I know? Because I could easily just tell them everything I know, and they'll accept that information.
Let's actually really sit on this, because this is what leads to the sketchy non-prosecution agreement. So September 2007, Alex Acosta offers Epstein non-prosecution agreement despite
Over here, Israel's just fucking salivating at that information, I'm sure. No wonder we're bombing Iran for their ass.
evidence of a sex trafficking ring that crosses state lines, a textbook definition of a federal case. He pleads only to the solicitation of prostitution involving a minor, and he must register as a sex offender. The conditions of his non-prosecution agreement basically say he must spend 18 months in the Palm Beach County Jail. He has weekend release. He's allowed 12 hours a day, 6 days a week to basically do whatever he wants. There is some evidence that he actually continued some of his trafficking while he was actually locked up in prison. He had a black car that would pick him up for 12 hours a day. It's the greatest deal in the entire world. And all he has to do is serve 18 months under these sweetheart conditions. And what he is able to do is that he is only has to register as a sex offender. He does not spend decades in federal prison.
So he gets to leave 12 hours a day?
Yes.
That's a job.
Wait, 6 days a week. Yeah, it's called work release. They actually call it work release. That was the conditions. Now, here's another very important thing about this plea deal. Under this non-prosecution agreement, the federal government grants immunity for all crimes that were under investigation of that indictment to Jeffrey Epstein and to all unindicted co-conspirators, including Ghislaine Maxwell. So this non-prosecution agreement grants sweeping immunity of all crimes that were named in the secret indictment, both for Ghislaine Maxwell and for Jeffrey Epstein.
Pause right here.
Yes.
So, in other words, he gets this slap on the wrist compared to what they're investigating him for.
That's right.
And he gets to wipe the slate clean for all the way worse shit.
Yeah.
Now, he gets immunity. That's different than wiping the slate clean. Does he then acknowledge all the things that happened through his immunity?
I don't believe so. I think
he has too much information on all the fucking elites, right? So they're like, fuck that. Just fucking be cool. Keep doing your shit. Don't let anybody see you do it. You know? I gotta get some of that damage down.
That these were the crimes that you were being investigated for, and we're going to basically agree that we'll never prosecute you for them in exchange for
It's a limited hangout.
Yeah, it's like exactly.
What is that called?
Limited hangout.
What does that mean?
Basically, it's like the publishing of some of the bad things you did in order to hide all of the bad things you did.
So everything before 2000.
Wait, what's it called again?
And limited hangout.
What does that mean?
Basically, it's like it's a limited hangout.
Yeah, it's like exactly.
What is that called?
Limited hangout.
What does that mean?
Basically,
limited
it's like
hangout.
The publishing of some of the bad things you did in order to hide all of the bad things you
So
did.
everything before 2008, he gets off with 18 months.
Well, everything in the secret indictment that was against.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so
Which
that
we
they were able
imagine
to prove,
is-
which by the way still exists and has never been released to this day. So there's that.
So there is a virgin.
Yeah.
A lot of them. There is a version where we could. Is there any version where we could learn about what was in that indictment?
Yeah, they could release it if they wanted to. I mean, these are part of the promises that have been made by
But
the
would that
Trump
break the
administration.
immunity
Yes, it would.
agreement?
Well,
And-
actually, no. So hold on a second.
Yeah.
This is part of the reason. Can you put that back up because this is important?
And immunity
the reason,
is different than getting your
reason why the reason why we ever learn anything about this is because of the victims and the courageous victims who, according to the law on the books at the time, is that the victims themselves had a right, a federal right, to be informed of this non-prosecution agreement. This non-prosecution agreement was kept secret from the Epstein victims at the time, which violates federal law.
And once
these people fight for justice, and it's in 2018 that a court rules that the Epstein non-prosecution agreement violates the federal rights of the Epstein victims. It's under that ground that
Need
the
him to kill
non-prosecution
him.
agreement is overturned, and it is under then that the Southern District of New York is able to arrest Jeffrey Epstein on new charges. So this civil right, this lawsuit is the Crime Victims' Rights Act. That's exactly what it
GG.
is. Except they complained they were not informed of the government's deal and were very unhappy about it because they trusted the feds to basically give them justice on their behalf, and they ruled, the district court ruled, that it violated their rights under the Crime Victims' Rights Act and overturned the non-prosecution agreement, which opens the door to his rearrest in 2019.
Okay, so hold on right here.
Yeah.
Because it overturns that I don't want to say conviction, but it
Non-prosecution
overturns the
agreement.
non-prosecution
And the
agreement and the immunity, we should now legally have access to the indictment and investigation.
We don't legally have access to
Why
it.
is that? Why is there legal? Why can you overturn something, but he still gets immunity through it?
Well, he didn't have immunity. They indicted him on new charges, but there's still an open question as to whether all the new charges in the 2019 indictment against Epstein include the secret indictment.
Jeez, bro, this fucking law system's trash. If you're fucking caught something doing, open the books on it, bro. Make it public record for everybody to see.
Many of the charges that were made.
How is the government protecting the pedophile so much? Fuck the money.
They indicted him on new charges, but there's still an open question as to whether all the new charges in the 2019 indictment against Epstein include the secret indictment and many of the charges that were made against him.
Bare minimum, there would be nothing that would go against our system of justice that would simply expose all the charges and investigation in that initial crime or those initial crimes, right? Because it was overthrown?
Well, it's complicated. So I do know that the grand jury docs were actually released from 2006. I have this in front of me because I don't have all of the details exactly on here, but it's not the full actual investigation.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is this doesn't necessarily prove a blackmail ring, which seems the narrative is incredibly popular online. It's something that we've obviously talked about, but it would at least acknowledge the accusations and the extent of the crimes that he was accused of. Which we haven't really gotten to at all. We've heard about them. But that information is not, and I think what would be very interesting about that is that if we have access to that information, yes, it might not incriminate the co-conspirators. No, actually, it would incriminate those co-conspirators now, but that would be okay because those people were being investigated and was going to go to trial anyway. We don't fall into that same Maxwellization Act or whatever I was talking about before.
That's right.
Right? This idea that oh, you were around Epstein, so we don't want your name to be mentioned because your image could be tarnished when you weren't actually accused of anything. No, this is, they were accusing you of it and they were ready to go to trial.
That's right. They were willing to go.
Release that bare minimum we should have all that.
They've released some of that. They've released the grand documents, but exactly. So this gets to the whole point, and then even then, whether we can really trust whether all those grand jury documents, which are only released about a year or so ago. And by the way, I'm not a lawyer, so if I misspeak on any of this stuff, please forgive me. I'm actually just trying to compile all the evidence. What we do know, at least according to the Justice Department, is that this was a deal that should never have happened. But that doesn't happen until 2020, after Epstein kills himself. After the Office of Professional Responsibility officially says Alex Acosta showed poor judgment whenever he entered this investigation. But that's the whole ball game here, is why we let him off on a sweetheart deal. Go ahead.
Was Ghislaine the only co-conspirator that got immunity?
I think she wasn't named in it. It was to any co-conspirator. She wasn't specifically named, but it did cover her because she was one of the people who was.
I guess it covered all co-conspirators.
But I think Alex was asking who else was covered.
I'd have to revisit that exact case, but I know there were assistants and other people who were involved.
That's the thing.
Look, this doesn't just. It's remember Harvey Weinstein? He had all of his assistants
and his Harvey.
And it was hold on a second here. There's a lot of people that need to know about this to make this all happen.
So here's a weird question, kind of. Why would that judge in 2018 suddenly kind of buck everything else that's happened and say, no, these victims have a right to justice?
Because it's a clear-cut case. It's literally the law that they had to be informed of the non-prosecution agreement.
Very ignorant question. Why did it take 10 years? Were other judges
the legal system is very slow. That's just basically what it is. Also, a lot of them were felt in silence. A lot of them didn't even know about it. They learned about it later. And after they learned about it, they thought that this had all been a lot more he'd been penalized more after they learned. Again, that documentary on Netflix that actually goes into all of these specifics. But I'm more focused on the intelligence question. That's the case I want to really stick with because that's the whole ballgame is here. Is why did Acosta let him off?
And before you get to that, Mark, what were you saying?
Do you know if the statute of limitations applies for these kinds of things if someone's sort of
collaboration with a crime is
Yeah, well, we'd have
nullified.
we'd have to do the math, but if you think about the statute of limitations, Ghislaine goes on trial for crimes in the 1990s. So presumably, you know, all of her convictions, if it's in what, 2021, I think she was convicted, then let's go back some 20 years. So there must be the statute of limitations. There is for everything, I think, but murder. But it presumably does go back like decades enough that she was able to be prosecuted.
So
at
then
the very least,
other
under that.
co-conspirators
The
likely
other
could also-
co-conspirators could also be.
And wouldn't it wipe away
prosecuted.
the statute of limitations if there was proven that the case wasn't handled according to the legalities
I'm
of
a
our
lawyer.
justice situation?
I'm not a lawyer. I
get, you get what I'm saying. It's like, let's say like they
You would think so, but I
Yeah.
could also see some bullshit way where they're like, no, it's the government's fault for entering into a bad thing, so you can't prosecute it. But
Well,
I mean,
they didn't enter into a bad thing. They didn't tell the what are the
The
people?
victims.
They
Yeah,
didn't
the
tell
victims.
the victims of the
Yes.
agreement.
Right.
So I would imagine it's like a mistrial. You're allowed to do it again. I don't think that the statute of limitations should wipe that away.
I think the victims will just have right to see that agreement. I don't think it would undo the agreement.
yeah, exactly. The thing is that they didn't have to do anything except to tell them, hey guys, this is what we did.
And the reason they didn't do it
just didn't do it
is
because it was a
because
sweetheart deal.
it was a sweetheart
and they
deal.
didn't want
Yeah.
to reveal why he's able to get away with this. But
Okay.
this is kind of what brings
Miles
me.
has one question
Oh,
before
go
we
ahead.
move on.
Really quick. The Freedom of Information Act, would this apply at any point? Is there like a time in which this will have to release?
That's a FOIA. It's a big FOIA question. So FOIA, I mean, it can take forever in the Department of Justice, and there are various like classification rules. This leads. Remember, there was redactions in the Epstein files, and even then, it has to go through review of the FOIA officer. This is not really something that we'll ever find out via FOIA.
And then-
That's almost impossible.
Got it. And then
Yeah.
secondly, when people talk about the word or like say Epstein files, are they generally
Yeah, fossils are super good in this game, especially Skull Fossil with Rampardos. This card right here, dude, this card is overpowered, and that's come from a fossil, bro. 1 energy, and you hit for 130. Connie, that's ridiculous. All right, so Rampardos, this card is everywhere. You can't have a fighting deck without Rampardos in it. All right, everybody plays around this card, and that comes from a Skull Fossil. It's the Skull Fossil. It's a very distinct one. Each one comes to a different Pokemon.
to this secret indictment? Is that the
No.
bulk of it,
No.
or are there so many other pieces?
Here, I'm trying to
of
find
information?
the secret indictment details here. Just so, yeah, to the sealed federal indictment prepared by the Southern District of New York that led to his eventual July 2019 arrest. This was under seal in late June. So this basically goes back to the indictment that was prior to the non-prosecution agreement. That's what I'm talking about.
Got it.
That is not what the Epstein supposed files are.
Okay.
And this is the other problem. Nobody really knows what the Epstein files are. And there's been this bastardization, again, of this idea of the black book and the so-called client list.
Right.
I'm telling you, it doesn't work like that. Like, there are names in books. Some of the names in the Epstein black book actually turned out he never met them, right? So what Epstein files to me is financial records, is the entire like
Co-conspirators.
the co-conspirators,
Right.
the original investigation documents, the FBI 302s, and the
What's the operation?
Right,
That's what we're gonna learn
That's
about.
that's what we all want to know.
But then
and
they take a bunch of tapes and DVDs
and the
from his
tapes
set.
that were allegedly lost about the cash and the artwork and the flight logs, which are still not entirely released. And been released in drips and
Lost is
stabs.
hilarious.
Okay, so let's focus here on the non-prosecution agreement and why this did not happen and the case for why it is very, in my opinion, likely he was an intelligence asset. So in 2019, Joe, if you could please put this up from the Daily Beast, Vicky Ward, remember, this is Vicky Ward, this is the person who
Vanity Fair.
reports from Vanity Fair 2002, probably the foremost authority on Epstein. She reports that Alex Acosta, while he was being screened by the Trump transition team in 2017, when he was asked, why did you back off the Epstein case? She says here, she was told he belonged to intelligence and to let it go. Now this, I want to be clear, it's not been confirmed 100% that he said this. This is reporting from Vicky Ward about the Trump transition team. Now, though, if you can go to the next link that I sent, in 2019, when Alex Acosta holds a press conference about this entire issue, and he is asked specifically about intelligence ties of Jeffrey Epstein and whether he would confirm this, he says, quote, "I would hesitate to that reporting as fact, but he would not deny it." Later on, he is asked on the record here by the Office of Professional Responsibility whether he had any information that Epstein was an intelligence asset. He says, absolutely not. I did not have information. And he's informed that he is allowed to speak about this in a classified setting if he would like to, but he denies that he had information. But it's important to actually release the exact transcript as to what and how he was asked. Because you remember when I said earlier, when Naftali Bennett said he never worked for Mossad? That's very different than worked with Mossad. That's very different than was aware of, had contact with, right? You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, there are multiple
People can be
non-denial...
very specific with their wording to evade the truth.
Correct, as any lawyer and as any former U.S. attorney would know when he's under question. But nonetheless, Alex Acosta had an opportunity to address this and issued a non-denial denial in his public press conference in 2019. Last time I was here, I told you guys my great regret is I sat next to him on a plane and I didn't ask him about it. Because it was a midnight flight from Miami and nobody was talking. And I'm just staring at this dude being like, bro, I gotta ask, you know? Yeah. He probably thought I was such a freak. He's like, who is this guy? Look at me. Yeah, I was like, anyway, so Alex, if you're listening, I would still love to talk to you about it.
So we can,
but he has never
confirmed or denied.
He's never confirmed, he's never denied it. He's,
Well, I guess
he basically lives... I mean, look, he lives a private life in Miami. He can come out at any time.
He did kind of deny in
well,
his
he
final...
said here. He said here, and didn't really deny it. And again,
This is why he wants the exact transcript.
This is why the exact transcript matters, because he said, here, let's open it up very specifically.
Is that transcript available?
No, it's not available. And actually, that's one of the Epstein files that people would like release. So, Acosta told OPR he did not.
I mean, he could simply lie on that shit. He could simply lie on that transcript. Like, fucking people lie all the time. Shit. If you were in a pedophile fucking case, wouldn't you fucking lie to save your own fucking ass? Like, I don't know if I could take this fucking words for real. You know what I'm saying? Like, fuck this transcript.
Have any information?
Yeah, you own a skull fossil? I think I have another one. I could give it to you if you want. Let me see if I have another one for you, bro. Did you add me on, did you add me as a friend already on Pokemon? I know we battled each other through the passcode. Let me see if I have another one for you, bro. Hold on. Oh, wait, I don't want to mess up my... Hold on. I'll just check on here. Alright, let me check on here. Let me check on here. Okay. Let's check if I have another skull. Oops, detected a login on another device. End the game. Yeah, that was my bad. That was my fault. Alright, let's go back in Pokemon Pocket. Let's see if I have another skull fossil. Do you have two or just one? Because you need two. Because every deck is optimized with 2 cards of each card. Hey, Connie, do you have 1 or 2 of that card? Let's see, skull fossil. Shoot. I only got 2 cards, bro. I can't trade it. Oh, man. You need 2 of this one and 2 of Rampardos, bro. Those are fucking sick-ass cards. You could get it on the Space-Time... I think it's the Dalgia deck. Or, what do you call it? The booster packs? Let's see. Rampardos. Look at Ramp. Let's see. Yeah, I only have 2 again. Sorry. Damn it. Get out of here. Oh my god. How do I get up? There it is. Yeah, so you're on the Space-Time Dalgia, whatever, Dialga. That's the Space-Time Smackdown pack. It's the one with Dialga on it. Not the Palkia, but the Dialga. The blue one, not the pink one. You just try to farm this shit. And it's only like 150 to craft it if you can't get it. So it's like, what, 30 packs? Eventually you'll get it. But you need 2 of them, alright? And, oh, you could probably get it online. There's this app called PokeHub. Like Pokemon, but PokeHub. And you can trade online with different people around the world. That's how I got some of my stuff too, because you know, it's hard to get it lucky. So you just trade it with other people around the world and shit like that. There's a couple of trading apps, but that's the one I use.
cooperating in a federal investigation or relating to media reports that Epstein had, quote, been an intelligence asset. OPR says it did not find any reference to his
I'll send you the I'll text you that PokeHub name. Hold on. Gonna be next month. Yeah. All right. So, let me see if I have that PokeHub for you, so I can send it to you, bro. Where is it? Boom. No, I don't want to open it. I just want to send it to you. Let's see. How do I send to a friend? Remove, edit, share app. Connie. There you go. I sent it to you, bro. That's where you can kind of trade and see what you can get from other people. I mean, Rampardo's kind of hard to get because everybody wants it. So, yeah. Good luck, bro.
Cooperation or even a suggestion. In the footnote, they says when OPR asked Acosta about his apparent equivocation in a 2019 press conference in answering the media question about Epstein being an intelligence asset, he said, quote, the answer is no. So that's what he told them. Okay, let's be clear about what he said, at least in one on the record setting, because there are various different reporting on this. I am personally inclined to take the totality of evidence of everything I talked about his connections with Hoffenberg, with Adnan Khashoggi, with Douglas Leese, to show all of his connections that we're about to get into with Israel, and say, I think there's a pretty good case to be made. And let's also get now to why the intelligence community would ever want to cover this stuff up. All right, why? So can we go to the next link, please? This is from BuzzFeed News, 2021. A great reporter, Jason Leopold, he's like the FOIA king. And what he reported in 2021 is secret CIA files say that staffers committed sex crimes involving children. Declassified CIA Inspector General report shows a pattern of abuse and repeated decisions by the federal prosecutors not to hold agency personnel accountable. Now, why? And by the way, some of these agents abuse children as young as 2 and 6, which are named here in the documents. All right. And so why would the feds not want to prosecute known pedophiles, people who are actually abusing children, not just child pornography? Why? They were concerned.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering how bad the lag was. So it's about a minute of a lag. Cool. I know it's different on my screens, too. So it's like some apps are faster than the others. Pretty interesting.
If they prosecuted them in open court, that sources and methods would be revealed. So in sources and methods. So in 10 different known times here from the CIA Inspector General, they decided not to prosecute known pedophiles, specifically to make sure that they could protect intelligence at the expense of justice and bringing people and putting these people in jail. So that shows you that there is a track record here from the United States government, from the CIA Inspector General.
It looks about like 10 minutes, like probably like 10 seconds to me on the YouTube.
In which, even in a much lower level scenario, that they don't want this information to come to light. Not because they necessarily care about the justice, they care at the end of the day about sources and methods. And
actually, I lied. It looks like it's longer. Yeah, like probably like 30 seconds.
At all costs, they want to keep all of these people out of open court, because those people might start talking a whole lot of shit while they're on the transcript, on the record, and they might say, hey, you put me in federal prison, I'm going to tell the whole world what I know. And in exchange, they're let off with probably the worst crime that you can commit. You know, literally, in my opinion, like the worst possible crime that you can commit. We're talking about the sexual abuse here of children as young as 2 and as 6. Second one, and this shows you actually a more systematic one. Shout out to my friend Daryl Cooper, who flagged this case to me in his podcast. I highly recommend it, the Martyr Made podcast and the Epstein Files. So this is something he brought to my attention by his podcast, is that all throughout the 1970s and 1980s, there was this place called Kincora Children's Home in Northern Ireland, where it was basically a hub and an orphanage for orphan boys who were being systematically abused by intelligence assets known to MI6 and MI5, because, and it was basically covered up and ignored because they were key conduits in helping MI5 manage the Northern Irish problem during the Troubles. This is but a clear-cut example of
Bro, this is fucking crazy. So you fucking handle shit with the CIA, you get the pass to fuck some kids, bro. Oh, you doing it for your government? Ah, fuck it. You're a little weirdo. Just go ahead and fuck some kids. You're fine. You get a pass. As long as we get the intelligence we need. Like, what the fuck is wrong with people, bro?
Just
how
real
it
quick
works
so
with the
everybody
Epstein.
understands. MI5, MI6 is British intelligence.
These are British intelligence.
And then the Troubles is a time in which there was Irish resistance.
Irish resistance against the UK and Northern Ireland, and it's complicated.
So,
I'm not a full expert.
The argument
but
is in order to manage that resistance,
Yes.
they had these intelligence assets.
who were sexually abusing children. They knew they were sexually abusing
And they
children.
let it happen
and they
because it
let
was
it happen
advantageous to
because it
handle
was
the troubles.
advantageous to continue that intelligence.
So
what I'm just showing you, though,
so they're
is that
not
this has all happened in the past.
But just so we can clarify,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean MI5 and MI6 are orchestrating
Correct.
the molestation of these children.
Yeah.
It means
But
that they
they're
are
looking the
looking the
other
other way, which is equally heinous.
It's honestly worse in my opinion. I actually think it's worse.
Okay,
Yeah,
fair
yeah,
enough.
Yeah.
Because it is advantageous for what the current administration or what the country
That's right.
wanted at the time. And so you were using this as evidence that intelligence communities have done this
in the past. These are verified incidents. They show us this has happened.
And real quick,
Yeah.
it would lend itself to this idea that intelligence communities were aware of what Epstein was doing and was able to look the other way because there was access to certain information
and money
that they wanted. So it would thwart this idea that the government is actively using Epstein as a worker, if you will, to run a blackmail ring, but it would confirm this idea that they were aware of this pedophile sex trafficking ring happening, and they allowed it to happen so as long as that they could continue to use him as an asset.
That's exactly right.
Which I think is an important slice, because I think the internet has taken Epstein and turned him into the Mossad, CIA, government blackmail ring that they use to incriminate the elites, which at this point in time, we don't know if there's any evidence of that, but it seemed like there's overwhelming evidence to his access to these elites and his utility to intelligence services.
Correct, that's exactly right.
And I wonder if it's advantageous for intelligence to have an asset or someone like this that has such a malignant proclivity.
Correct. You're exact. See, this is very
Can you
important.
go on? Can you continue on?
But
this?
just like if basically you have someone that's able to have access to all this information and money, but also is a known pedophile, he's much easier to control and coerce.
So it's like in the hood, if you got a crackhead or a heroin addict that you need him to do some fuck
There you
shit, that they always got to come back to because they're addicted to the thing you got.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, the
So-
FBI looks the other way on criminals. Actually, Joey, can you Google this? It's like confidential informants commit crimes. FBI. There was a report recently. It came out a couple of years ago that named like the number of crimes that the FBI allowed its confidential informants to commit while it was working with them.
This is Whitey Bulger.
Yeah, but it's not Whitey. It's like it goes way bigger than that.
Whitey
Like,
would be like the
yeah, the
biggest
perfect
version.
example of that.
So
but-
the notorious Boston gangster,
Of course,
who was always an FBI informant, but they allowed him to continue to run shit in Boston.
I mean, it's thousands of crimes.
Or
Like, it's
CIA
shocking.
propping
actually.
a dictator, and they can do whatever they want
They
to
can
their
do whatever
people,
you
but-
want as long as you keep certain things.
Oh, you can kill tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people as long as that you're loyal.
You could
to
say
us.
like, I would Google something like confidential informants commit crimes, like FBI admits, something like that. Maybe we can find that. I'm just citing it off the top of my head.
Sorry,
It's
in
been
the
a while
meantime, but do we have-
since I've looked at it? Go ahead.
Do we have any idea what he's providing that is worth the kids?
There it is. Yeah, there we go. FBI allowed informants to commit 5,000 crimes or something like. It's like maybe 5,000 or 50,000. I can't read the headline exactly. I'm trying to cite.
5,600.
I'm trying to show everybody that this is business as usual for the federal government.
And just to clarify, not all these crimes are kid fucking.
Yeah,
Some of
that's
these
right.
crimes are drug running.
Most
Some
of
these
it's drug
crimes
dealing.
are drugs.
Yeah.
Exactly. There
Yeah.
are illegal activities that the FBI is aware of, and they allow these people to operate in these spaces. They know that they're operating in these spaces and being watched, just as long as that information trickles back. For example, if you're a gun runner in America, you want to send some guns to some third world country, the FBI or the CIA is going to be aware of that. They can tap you for that information.
Right.
And they might actually want those guns to get over
Totally,
there.
yeah.
And they might need somebody like you were describing before to ensure that those guns actually get there
Bingo.
for their nefarious purposes. But again, I just want to parcel this. It's not like the only crimes being committed are having sex with children.
No.
It is quite common that you are using these nefarious characters
Right.
to carry out the horrible crimes that you cannot be associated,
This
as you
is
pointed
just,
out earlier.
yeah, all we're
business
pointing
as
out,
usual.
It's business as
Yes.
usual. It's just extended to the furthest possible one.
Yeah, this
of
is-
pedophilia.
that is a
You
great
see?
word.
I'm
That is-
struggling.
Yeah.
And we all struggle with that because we're good people.
But
right?
so when
you're
surrounded
when you're
with such
surrounded by
madness-
this, look, it's all how do you commit major crimes, right? It's all a buildup. Like, nobody just starts out immediately like going for a $1 billion Ponzi scheme. I mean, one of my favorite books is The History of the Madoff scheme. It starts small, man.
Yeah.
It starts with one doctored paper, and then it leads to this, and then it's one lie, it's one quarter, it's just one. That's all.
Yeah.
And then you take another, and the next thing you know, you're running a $56 billion Ponzi scheme. Okay? And it takes 50 years to get there, but it doesn't happen all overnight. It happens in a permission structure, in an environment of crime.
The permission structure is huge.
Yeah.
This might be the most obvious answer in the world, or there is no answer, and that's obvious. What intelligence is he providing? Do we have any idea?
I don't know.
That it's like, oh, well, this is potentially a pedophilia ring involving the most powerful people in the world, and instead of having any kind of justice, this information is
okay.
worth
So
it.
let's speculate at this, because this is pure speculation, and we have no idea. And this is part of what it would be great to get from files or investigation or a church committee. You know, the church committee actually would be the only answer here. We need a congressional committee.
Church would know about pedophilia.
Do you know what the church committee is? No, it's in the 1970s. It was Senator Frank Church, who was American hero.
No church can help itself, dude.
Why do you
call it the church
I
committee?
know.
Call it anything else. But go on.
Senator Frank Church in the 1970s exposed COINTELPRO, all of the out-of-control operations by the FBI and the CIA, and he brought the intelligence community to bear post-Watergate, and basically America didn't trust them anymore. Senator Church basically seized on this. He exposed a lot of the issues with the Black Panthers, with COINTELPRO, with the
Can you explain
prosecution.
COINTELPRO to anybody who's watching right now?
COINTELPRO was a CIA. Is that mind
FBI, I
control?
think.
What am I thinking of?
No,
COINTELPRO
FBI is
is basically
COINTELPRO.
agent provocateurs.
I'm getting them all
agent
mixed up.
provocators. You put the FBI agents in
That's
a
right.
peaceful
like with
protest,
against the
rile
Black
shit up.
Panthers.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's that, and then what was the mind control? What am I
MK
thinking?
Ultra.
MK Ultra. That's the MK Ultra. He exposed all this, right? So that's why what I'm saying is we need something like that
The idea
to happen
that
with this.
The intelligence community could be effectively using illegal measures to incriminate people that are not doing actual
Or
crimes.
acting against their own citizens.
Or acting against their own citizens
But to
in
answer your
violation
question,
of the law.
like he was an arms dealer, money launderer. That's a lot of.
By the way, I'm speculating.
information.
That's
Oh,
not confirmed.
speculation.
What I'm trying to say is there is a lot of evidence that points in that direction.
Yeah.
I can't get further without the documents, without
he was
the
just
verification.
asking, like,
He was
what information
knew a
could
lot
he
of
have
arms
given?
dealers, knew a lot of people who were doing. So look, we can
So,
only speculate as to
bare
what is
minimum-
exactly happening.
Bare minimum, what we can confirm is that he was involved, obviously outside the child sex trafficking, that he was doing illegal money laundering.
He appears, in my opinion, to have been doing.
Well, didn't he get caught at Bear Stearns? Maybe not money laundering, but insider
Yeah,
trading.
he was doing something that violated compliance rules in the 1980s.
So he's
yeah.
doing illegal stuff with the transfer of money, probably tax evasion, which is quite common when you're dealing with this type of money.
Yes.
But still willing to go to illegal measures to prop up the wealth of the world's elites.
Then he opens up his own firm and only accepts billionaires.
Billionaire, right? So again, like, what are we
That's
doing?
what I'm gonna do. I'm
Yeah.
gonna open up a podcast studio.
Only billionaire.
Well, think about it.
Actually, today it would be the equivalent of saying only 20 billion, right? There's not that many people who are
Oh, yeah,
worth
I
more than
gotta
20
raise the
billion.
And what if there was
Like-
one guy that was managing the money of all the richest people in the world?
Right.
It would be advantageous for the intelligence communities of any country to have access to that
Yeah,
guy.
you would actually be quite foolish if you didn't.
If you
right?
didn't, you
let's
have to
say-
have something. Right.
Exactly. So this is where, again, like, we can only speculate. What did they get out of this? In my opinion, in the 1980s, he was obviously financing arms deals. There's just like clear-cut case for me. That's the most useful. Black money is the most useful thing in the world to a U.S. intelligence or Mossad intelligence, Saudi intelligence, any of these other people. Then it gets to the question of the whole blackmail thing. And look, I think there is at least some evidence here in the case of Wexner and others that it appears to look like blackmail was used by Epstein for his personal financial gain. And then we combine the two to where we have hidden cameras that we know about in the Virgin Islands, that we know about in the New York residence, that we know about in Palm Beach. Many of this footage and other things never has been released. We know about the DVDs and other
On the
things.
cameras,
Yeah.
I think it's important to note that it's not simply security cameras. I have cameras in all my homes.
As you
They
should.
were-
Yeah.
Exactly. Like they were wired for audio as
Right.
well,
That's
and
right.
they were in the bathrooms.
Yeah.
I don't have. Yes.
But I actually think that's another interesting point because that doesn't necessarily mean it's only sexual blackmail.
Oh, I would
Yeah.
imagine it's more.
Come over to my house
Yeah,
for a
let's
meeting.
just talk about some
Let's
stuff.
talk.
You go to the bathroom and
Yeah.
you're like, this fucking weirdo, I gotta get the
Right.
hell out of here. He's a piece of shit, blah, blah, blah. And now you got that locked, and then the FBI gets access
Which
to
I
that
think is an
information.
important delineation that you might have some head of state, and let's say they're in the Epstein files as, oh, there is audio-visual blackmail of Bill Clinton or
Yeah.
Ehud Barak. It might not necessarily be sexual.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
All right, guys, take a break for a second. You need to take care of your mental health, okay? We know how important it is, but we also know how daunting it seems to drive up from a therapist's office every single week, and that's where Talkspace comes in. Talkspace makes therapy easy and convenient because you can take your appointments from the company.
Listen, I know you gave us. Oh,
It's like
that's
almost
me.
hard. No, I don't think that.
Break even, right?
Yeah.
That's flake. Clear for me.
About how to aid Barack.
Me?
Yeah.
Thank God. Through Payward Interactive Inc.
Let's get to aid Barack. This is important because now I want to start making the Israel case specifically. So we already talked about how earlier Epstein.
Bro, that took an hour and a half just to get to what he wanted to get to. The setup is crazy, bro. Hey, Connie, how you liking this fucking flagrant episode, bro? This shit's fucking insane. If it's true, right? Like, I mean, this guy is just like, I don't know who this guy is, to be honest, but pretty interesting. I don't know. I don't trust anybody. It's interesting for sure, bro. I'm glad you're here.
Well, look, I want to present this factually. I don't need people coming with the anti-Semitism accusations. Let's live only in the world
Do people
of fact.
make those accusations
Yeah,
anymore?
absolutely.
Wait, that happens?
Today, right now.
Bro, I get anti-Semitism every day, bro. They say it like fucking... They say it for every little thing. It's the most victimhood I've ever seen in my life. It's so bad. It's like, oh, you're just anti... No, bitch, I'm anti-you. You just happen to be a fucking idiot Jew. That's it.
Entire thing is gonna be Brandon anti-Semitic. But well, listen, I don't care anymore. But even though they are going to say that no matter what, we should not be irresponsible and let's live in the world of fact. So go ahead, Joey, and scroll down to the thing that I have here that says Epstein and Ehud Barak. So let's go ahead and put this up here.
Yeah.
Here are the lists that I compiled just yesterday of every Israeli prime minister who we know who is linked to Jeffrey Epstein. Number 1 is Shimon Peres. Shimon Peres was the prime minister of Israel in the 1980s. He, according to Ehud Barak himself in the open record.
This fool went 4 terms in prime ministers. Fucking Epstein went 4 terms. Hey, he's got 4 rings. All right, for every fucking administration of Israel, bro. He's almost got the 5 rings. If he didn't die, he would have had the 5th ring, the greatest of all time, bro. The whole hand would have been just filled.
Introduced Ehud Barak to Jeffrey Epstein. So that's the first prime minister of Israel that we know is linked.
Hey, he did it for the love of the game, bro. He didn't share no bitches. He had them all for himself.
Number 2 is Ehud Omer, who was named as an Epstein associate by the U.S. Virgin Islands in their lawsuit against J.P. Morgan and Chase. I will be honest, Ehud Omer, we have the least amount of information. We only know he was named by the U.S. Virgin Islands as an Epstein associate. Number 3, Ehud Barak, as I list there. Connections too vast to paraphrase, all right? And so let's spend some time now on Ehud Barak. Let me return to Netanyahu in a bit. In my document, you can scroll to the Epstein and Ehud Barak section. Ehud Barak stayed for multiple times at Jeffrey Epstein's house. This is confirmed. He flew dozens of times on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet.
But he has nowhere else to stay in New York City.
Yeah, right. He's the former prime minister of Israel.
Where could he stay?
Actually, Joey, can you pull up the photo of Ehud Barak? Ehud Barak, Epstein mansion.
That was my
he
thought.
had a...
That was my thought.
This is the biggest problem.
Yeah.
You're gonna go say it the 4 seasons?
No, I want you guys to see the photo. There's a photo of Ehud Barak walking into the Epstein mansion with his face covered, with a scarf up to his nose, and this is pre-COVID times.
Yes.
He says it was cold, but
It was cold. It was cold.
Yeah, there it is. Look at that.
Winters.
Look at that. That's him walking into Jeffrey Epstein's house. That's insane. People don't walk around like that. They don't walk around like
that's
that.
post-2008.
Sorry. Yeah, and this is post 2008.
So again, we're talking about post-conviction.
Yeah, post-conviction.
He's a registered sex offender.
That's right.
Still staying at his house.
He's staying in his house.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Also, 2015, I have a documented link here.
He might just be cheap and not want to spend.
Epstein funded Ehud Barak.
Hey, you don't know no other Jews or real estate in New York City.
All right, let me
Come on.
continue. Epstein funded Ehud Barak's defense intelligence startup to the tune of millions of dollars. So that, in my opinion, is one of the real smoking guns. Because what did I talk about earlier with Robert Maxwell? Was the funding of software used by the Israeli government to do what? to spy on the United States.
Now this software would
Yeah.
be used to spy everywhere, I imagine.
Yeah, right. Yeah, of course, like Pegasus, right? And
Right.
I'm worried about this card right here. Okay, it doesn't hurt me as much as I thought it would. I was scared for a second. All right, I win.
These other things, sir.
Got it.
Right? So it's not just the United States, but it's everybody, all right? But here in this case, Epstein entered partnership worth millions with Ehud Barak in 2015, post-conviction, registered sex offender. Okay, let's continue. Barak is who? The former, not only prime minister, the former head of military intelligence inside of Israel. Let's continue beyond that, and let's say ask about Ehud Barak and what else he did. I have this in the Wexner section. If you want, it is. Let me find it here. I may not have actually put a citation. You can Google it if you would like. Epstein, who was also named by Leslie Wexner as a trustee of the Wexner Foundation, paid Ehud Barak $2.3 million to complete 2 consulting reports, one of which he never finished. Okay? $2.3 million paid by the Wexner Foundation to Ehud Barak, the former Prime Minister of Israel, for one of which he never finished. Okay? I'm just saying, good work if you can get it.
Yeah,
right? 2.3 million. Everybody out there, if you're struggling with your bills and your mortgage, this is insane. All right? This is insane. For purposes of what? We don't know. Now let's return to the Wexner Foundation.
Why would you be paying him?
Yeah, exactly. What's going on?
No, I guess I'm saying, like, why is that advantageous? Like, if
because it's like a jobs program for all of these former Israeli officials, and it's basically a network where, and this actually fits what I was about to continue. The Wexner Foundation funds a fellowship right now at Harvard University, which, by the way, of course, also had connections with Jeffrey Epstein. And what did we see? Is that the Wexner Foundation has, for decades now, sponsored programs where Israeli officials, including military officials, and
I'm gonna say this now. If this fool ends up dead because of suicide, bro. If this guy ends up dead in the middle of the street or in his house, like, we already know what happened, bro. If this guy disappears for any weird reason, we already know, chat. What the fuck, bro? Hey, keep this man safe. Put a bulletproof vest on his chest and on his fucking head, bro. Just a fucking helmet of Cavalier.
government officials come to the United States to, quote, learn leadership. And it's known as one of the largest networks of like highly influential Israeli government officials who come to the United States and basically link up with one another as a very, very powerful nexus. So the Wexner Foundation is involved.
And why is that incriminating that they come here and learn leadership?
Well, it's not incriminating. I'm just saying that the Wexner, this is an American, he's a billionaire, he's funding AIPAC and all of these various Zionist causes. He's also paying weirdly $2.3 million to a former Israeli prime minister. This is a foundation which Epstein has a lot of control over. By the way, just to be fair to them, they have claimed that Epstein had no influence over that decision. Okay, I mean, he was, basically running it, and he had power of attorney by Leslie Wexner. But, to be fair to the Wexner Foundation, I mean, I just think it's crazy. This is insane to pay $2.3 million to Ehud Barak.
So take me down that line of thinking.
Yeah.
If you pay him that money, what does that mean?
Yeah, for what? It's like to what? To what
take
end?
me down
I
there,
don't know. I
give
mean,
me an alleged, give me a hypothetical.
my
just
hypothetical is that these are basically ways to create slush funds that perhaps he was using, and others to fund other intelligence operations.
So-
this returns me to the black money point,
Now-
is that you
okay.
need legitimate ways to wash money.
Okay, so then
nonprofits are great
he's giving
ways.
the money to him, and then
Yeah.
he's doing, nefarious
Who knows what he's
activities
doing?
with it.
I don't know what he's doing.
Is there
Yeah.
a way of looking at it where you go, Jeffrey Epstein is working for U.S. intelligence, and in a way, this is how they're bribing Israeli intelligence
You very may
to
well be onto
loyal
something.
to
Right.
U.S.
And this is why I will never sit here and say he was solely a Mossad agent or a
Right.
Mossad asset, solely a U.S. asset. I think he was he was a hired gun. He would work for anybody.
For anybody.
And everybody would want to work with this person who
Because he has access to all the
access
rich
to the
and famous
world's
people.
money,
Yeah.
to the world's rich and the famous. He can tell you the secrets. I mean, this is the gold standard of an intelligence asset in the United States of America, the capital of the global empire, right? New York City, the capital of global finance. People, even private business people would want to be friends with Epstein because, like, hey, what's going on with that deal? Are they going to, do a leverage buyout with this person? And Epstein would be like, maybe I can find out for you, right? And he, calls up this person. So there are a lot of reasons to want to have access to all of this,
And why
much
would
of which is very
Barack want
beneficial.
access to? Why would he want access to Epstein?
Well, that is one of those things where I actually think the relationship was the other way, because it might be just a quid quid pro quo situation. Like, you're Ehud Barak, you're the former prime minister of Israel, and Jeffrey Epstein is a guy who made his money somehow, and you need millions of dollars from him, not a legitimate, venture capital firm. I think that the reason that they want sketchy money is because it was probably, in my opinion, some sort of intelligence front, and that this is exactly, he's fulfilling his purpose. The financier uses the money, the dirty money, or the untraceable money to fund future spyware, intelligence companies. This gets to the front company discourse. It also shows us that he was involved in this in 2015. It wasn't that long ago, okay? It was only 10 years ago that he was still doing this. So it shows that even post-conviction, he's continuing the behavior, which is very suspicious, in my opinion. So that's where we are with Ehud Barak. Now let's return to Netanyahu, because this is a fun story, actually. So Netanyahu in 2011, I have that screenshot in my tweet if you want to go ahead and put that up there. Netanyahu met with the JP Morgan exec I mentioned earlier, Jess Staley. All right. So Jess Staley in 2011 emails Epstein, and he said, I got to find the exact text. I don't have it here in the document, but I tweeted it a couple of days ago. Let me just go ahead and find it, because the wording of it is genuinely remarkable, where he sends him an email and he said something like, against all odds. Yeah, here we go. In 2011, JP Morgan executive forwarded an email to Epstein. Against all odds, we have been granted a meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Epstein replies, surprise, surprise. The U.S. Virgin Island notes that he was a key conduit in brokering meetings like this. And so here's from the U.S. Virgin Islands lawsuit, where they note some of the world's dignitaries: Prince Andrew, Ehud Barak, Netanyahu, David Girk.
Hey, Connie, check out this fucking Charizard that's about to get smoked by me, bro. He hits me for 150. Check this out, bro. I'm about to smoke this man. Check this out. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Hey, your little cape ain't gonna help you, bro. Here we go. Fuck you, boo! Fuck out of here, fuck boy.
Pritzker, by the way, Pritzker is who? The governor of Illinois, the billionaire, the fat billionaire, Mandelson, various other people that they.
You have to have fat in there.
What?
You didn't have to put fat in there.
Bro, pull up a picture of him. Let's be honest. All right, let's just all be honest. My favorite thing about Pritzker is he said, unlike Donald Trump, I'm a real billionaire.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Like, what are we doing?
The honeymooners.
Yeah, look at this dude. Yeah.
Bang, zoom.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So that's one of the other names that was listed there, and the Epps in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, my point is around this is this JP Morgan CEO is able, from the email discourse, he's like, against all odds, we were granted a meeting with Netanyahu, and Epstein replies, surprise, surprise.
Why can't JP Morgan get a meeting with Netanyahu?
Exactly. And first of all, it's super weird. Why would?
Bro, Genetic Apex fucking Charizard kills everything in one shot, bro. It's so good. You gotta build it up, which is a pain in the ass. But once you do, bro, you're killing the new Charizard, bro. Fuck, dude, that guy was like, put on a cape and everything. He had extra life, but just fucking destroyed his ass. That shit was so fun to see.
A meeting with Netanyahu.
JP Morgan,
and then
one of the biggest banks in the
why
world.
would you
Maybe the
forward
biggest.
that to Epstein? And Epstein's like, yeah, you're welcome for hooking it up. I think it's weird. Now, none of these point perhaps to like direct employee relationship.
Oh, Lily? Yeah, so the Lily, if you have a stage 3, it heals for 60. It's like, honestly, if you're gonna deal with the 60, like, yeah, it's cool, but like, I would say go for cape, potion, and other stuff, because Lily, if you don't have that stage 3, bro, you're just holding a card for no reason. It don't work for stage 2 or stage 1, or basic. Sorry, it don't work for stage basic or stage 1, but it works for stage 2. Sorry, I got that confused. But you know what I mean. The third evolution is what I meant.
To a vast
network,
influence and network, which was useful perhaps at times with the U.S. and Israeli intelligence.
But this looks like Epstein has influence over Israel, not the other way around.
Well,
it looks like the
but it could be
US
bidirectional.
Right, of course,
Yeah.
of course. I'm just saying in this certain circumstance,
Right.
it's like, hey, we need to meet with this guy. We can't happen. And
Yeah.
he's like, I'll tell him what to do.
Well, yeah, but it's not really influence. It's more acting as an agent for major financial institutions to hook them up with the Israeli government. Now, look, I mean, Netanyahu, by the way, has never answered any questions about this. But Ehud Barak has, you know...
You're saying in his Nelk Boys interview he didn't talk about this?
Is that out yet? By the way, do we know?
No.
What's up with Steiny and them? I don't understand. Like, bro, I said this. I was like, you have a newsy interview. You got to release that shit. You can't just hold a prime minister
No, I'm
interview
sure they asked the
for a
hard-hitting
week. It's fucking
questions.
crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure they
Your
asked
Nell
the
thing is
thoughtful.
still one of my favorite things I've ever seen. That's
Hey, BB,
legendary.
how long keg stand?
Yeah.
How many Happy Dads do you think you can drink in 30 seconds?
He's
son?
literally, I forget the one who was annoying with you, who's literally gonna like be on his phone while BB is talking or some shit.
Well, the thing about Israel Palestine, what kind of watch is that?
Bro, they're just fucking going after the Nug Boys. I've never seen a Nug Boy podcast, but I figured it'd be kind of like how they're doing it. Just fucking tongue-in-cheek in it.
What a joke. All right, yeah.
Wait, so, okay, to play devil's advocate for some of these people who would be on Epstein's list, and you brought this up earlier, but like, theoretically, you got, if I'm a Bill Gates, and this guy has access to all of these people, and I'm concerned with wealth, I guess he's already been convicted of the pedophilia, so even associated with him is crazy. But theoretically, it's like, well, he can connect me with that billionaire and that billionaire and that.
Well, that's what
billionaire.
happened in Bill Gates' case. So Bill Gates, if you guys remember, well, it's complicated. There's a lot of reporting about it, but allegedly, you know, he would use Epstein for marriage advice and things like that. Sketchy. That's
She's too old.
Yeah, that's.
The fuck is Bill Gates? Dude, he's such a fucking nerd, bro. Bill Gates is such a bitch. How you gonna go for the pedophile guy for? They got no game. They're going after hella young. They're defenseless. Like they don't even have like any way to defend themselves. Like they just, when you're a kid, you're just kind of going along with everything, kind of like La La Land. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of like you're not gonna say no and all that bullshit. Like what the fuck is this guy on, bro? Bill Gates has no game.
You know, I mean, actually, this is important on the Bill Gates story. Melinda Gates divorced him over the Epstein thing. And
Is that confirmed? That's what she says.
Okay, well, that's the timing.
That's what she
No, no,
says.
no,
Yeah,
but
like, I
hey,
would say that too.
But guys,
Yeah, of
let's
course
stick
you would
with
say
that
that.
because here's the thing: it had to be bad because Bill Gates was an obvious philanderer for over 20 years for their entire marriage.
Yeah.
So what was worse than that to get you to divorce him?
Yeah.
There had to be something. I think there was something sketchy that she found out. Like, look, maybe she was just appalled by all the reporting, but she knew. Look, everybody at Microsoft knew that Bill Gates was having affairs. This is already documented. It's out there. Like, in terms of his conduct with women over the last 20 years.
Yeah,
so it can't have been as bad as
To support
he
what
was
you're
just
saying,
with,
there's
it's
an
like-
income level where it's like,
right,
come on.
They're multi-billionaires.
You know what I mean? Come on.
They probably are not even in the same country, right? They're both like vast estates that can just move around on private jets. So. Again,
Oh my God! I
nobody
did not like that he had. This is
Yeah.
Melinda Gates. I did not
Yeah.
like that he had meetings with Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
No, I made that clear to him. He was abhorrent. He was evil personified. My heart breaks for these women. Yeah, I guess you got to say that.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where there might be something else
Actually,
going
how
on.
many?
feel that way.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Do we know the first time? What's the gap between the divorce and the first time this guy meets Epstein? Because I think there's like 12 years where Melinda could have left.
Yeah, do you not like that it got out?
Well, that's part of it. I mean,
So if you don't like that it got out,
maybe
again,
you shouldn't know.
I do
Say
not
again?
know.
Maybe you shouldn't know.
No,
I
I
don't
think
know
she could have
what-
left earlier if she was so
Yeah.
bothered by
Right,
it.
But I think what Alex is saying, maybe she didn't know. that
yeah,
she
no,
didn't know.
I
Phyllis
think,
should have known.
I think she didn't know because all of the stuff is about his. And I think actually she may know even more than we all do about what was going on in some of those rooms.
Wait, why?
But, well, maybe it's like she asked him to come clean and he came clean, or maybe there's some stuff in court documents and lawsuits and others, but have been alleged against him that again could have been
Well, what's the
catch and kill.
settlement like?
We
That'll
have
tell
no
you
idea.
everything.
It was like billions. I mean, we can look at it.
mean, it's
don't know
gonna be
exactly
billions.
What it was. Yeah, it's gonna be billions no matter what. So it's. What was it, 40 billion, something like that? Maybe 50? And control the Bill and Melinda.
Bro, $40 billion? Dude, I need to get money, bro. I need to get money. Alright? I need a little bit of that money. Badly. Give me $1 billion. I'll be happy.
Foundation.
Oh, yeah,
they
yeah,
agree
yeah,
to
yeah.
continue
She knew.
those two things together.
Yo,
So
Melinda.
there's something going on.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all I'm saying. All right. 12.5 billion grand for her philanthropic work.
Bro, I'm not getting any cards, bro. This is bullshit.
Can you hit show more?
Maybe I'm thinking.
Melly Mel. Oh, they
I
have no
don't-
proof.
I mean,
they have
yeah,
no prenup.
division
Oh, so
of
she gotta
large-
give it no matter what.
Right. Yeah. She was gonna get it no matter what. So let's
so
go.
yeah. Okay.
Right. So anyway, my thing is like, why now? I just think again, she knew about his cheating. Like it had to be worse than that. I don't really know what it was.
Or just public.
Or public. It's possible. But Bill Gates met with Epstein because he was trying to win a Nobel Peace Prize. Bill Gates wanted the Nobel Peace Prize for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Epstein's like, oh, I can make that happen. And why? Like that's the question. It's like, why even after being a registered sex offender? Like Andrew, you and I are in a weird position.
That's why Trump was
I'm
cool
sure
with him. He just
all
wanted
of
the
us
peace.
were. I'm sure all of us as public people, we get invited to dinners like all the time, right? And
Yeah.
I very rarely go because
I
it's
never
like
go.
annoying.
Yeah.
But I used to go. But like what I always do is just a cursory Google search,
Yeah.
right? And if somebody invited me to dinner, you know, and was a registered sex offender, which is one of the very first things going to pop up,
Yeah.
I'm not going. But George Stephanopoulos went. Bill Gates went. Reid Hoffman.
Why do you
know,
think they went?
Peter, I don't know.
Yeah, how do you have time? I
it's
barely
like-
hang out with my real friends.
Right, exactly. It's like, what is going on here? You know, and not only you guys are doing dinners or whatever, you're all like wiring money to each other. The Bill and Melinda Gates, or like the Nobel Peace Prize, and there's all kinds of people we don't even know about because there has not been yet a release of the files.
But
the
isn't
fact
it like
is,
the rich people stuff that you were saying
Yeah.
before? It's like, well, he's going over there. I guess it's cool if we all go.
Yeah, but
If
but
they're-
it's still
the circles
doesn't the
is that
sex
small.
offender thing register at any point? Like
No,
at
of
what
course,
point?
for
Yeah,
us.
once they're
At
convicted.
what point does it register to be like, oh, we're not doing this?
I can understand not
right
Googling,
now.
to be honest with you. I probably wouldn't Google. But
Come on,
once
dude.
somebody's convicted, fuck that.
No,
dog.
yeah,
Fuck
Also,
that.
your staff is gonna Google.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So yeah, same thing that happened with like O.J. Simpson, right? With the murder case, everybody was like cool with him and then not cool with him after that shit because it was just too heavy and it was too public. I'm like, how did he not get so public that you wouldn't fuck with him like that? You know, why would you be near Epstein after that came out? Like, was there any report on it? Was it silent? Like, how did that not come out so big? Like, a billionaire pedophile back then would have been fucking nuts. Like, where was the story on that? Was their news that limited where they don't see it? Like, well, they don't have like what we have, like podcasts and live streams and all this other newscast just giving us the information right away. Like, I get that, but like, did the newspaper not say it at all? Like, what the fuck?
Like all these meetings are going through your staff.
And I'm
You're
not worried.
exactly
I'm not
right.
worth enough to have a staff. If I was, they would, yeah, hey, Google
Bro, these
anybody else.
assistants, you're not getting in the
Vet
fucking
everybody.
door.
Think about
you
how
know?
many people were terrified of just coming on the podcast.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Almost terrified to come on a podcast.
Yeah,
right. You have some of the most powerful people in the world that are going to meet up with a convicted pedophile.
Right.
Yeah, you know what's going
Yeah,
on.
you know.
Yeah.
But you said in the 90s
Yeah.
it was already common knowledge
It was
that he
common
likes them young. So
Yeah,
it's
but
like
that's,
they
there's
knew
a
that back
big
then.
difference being a
Yeah.
registered sex offender.
Yeah, there's a
plausible
PR issue.
deniability before that.
But they
not-
all rationalize it. I'm sure their staff says, yeah, look, he was given such a light sentence because it was kind of
Right.
bullshit.
Yeah,
the,
that's
the
true.
charges were
You
trumped up.
know that the girl was
Listen,
underage.
yeah.
And so the
She
whole thing
just
was
trying to get a
overblown,
hand
and
job.
you're about to get $2 billion in a peace prize at your
Right.
foundation.
Yeah.
And then you go, all right, for $2 billion, I
Think how
can
many
have,
people I could help.
I
with
can have
the-
a closed
Yeah.
door meeting with the
This
guy.
is the weirdest
Right.
thing. It's the reputation laundering. Like, again, we're talking about Bill Gates. We're talking about MIT. We're talking about the Ivy League universities. We're talking about some of the world's most professional and smartest scientists who are going over to his house for dinner, who are, you know, accepting grants for his work at the MIT lab, who all of this is post-conviction. Guys, you don't just give money to MIT. They have enough money. They don't just take it from anyone. They do extensive background
They do
research
extensive
to make
background
sure that you
research.
can put your name on something
To that
and they
point-
know what's happening.
I have a
Yeah.
friend of mine who has a real estate fund or whatever,
Sure.
and he got investment from these institutional places like MIT and that, and the amount of background
due diligence
research-
must be insane.
It's
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
insane.
And he often like criticizes some like the developers who just like they raise money in the community,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, yeah, that's bullshit because if you lose their money, it's no big deal. There's nobody to answer to. When you get money from an institution like the UC
Yeah.
fund, like UC
Pension fund or
pension
whatever.
fund,
Yeah,
exactly.
oh,
Like
man.
the amount of due diligence, the SEC is on your phone, like
that should be.
you
Yeah,
are
like-
getting looked at
Yes.
constantly.
Yes.
So it's not like that's not going to come up.
up. It does come up, and they look the other way,
Yes.
which is peculiar.
It's weird.
Very
okay.
weird.
Last thing, I actually didn't put this in my notes, and this really, my goal here is to just emphasize all the connections and what could possibly still yet to be released. So please Google the New York Financial Services report on Epstein, which regards Deutsche Bank. Now, this report, I read it in 2020. It's one of the craziest things I ever read because it is a description of financial behavior at this bank that any normal individual would never get away with. Not only looking the other way, holding high-level meetings being like, guys, we're not in compliance right now. They're like, this is violating banking rules. He is taking out millions of dollars in cash, $9,900 at a time. They're not reporting it to the feds, which you're supposed to. He's wiring money to Eastern European women, an obvious sex trafficking wing, post-conviction, which, by the way, post-conviction, they weren't even really supposed to be doing business with them for the
Fuck, bro. So these are wire transfers that are going crazy, and so it's being sent overseas in the open. Fuck.
of the bank, but they cite in the Deutsche Bank settlement and with the New York Financial Services internal emails where they're like, hey, he's really good for business because he connects us with a whole lot of people. These are out in the open, right? And inside, you literally watch as lower level compliance people who don't know what's up flag to their bosses, and they're like, guys, what are we doing here? This is violating bank rules. And they're like, hey, shh, they're like, stop, right? I mean, I'm talking all the way up to the highest level of the bank where internal conversations are had in multiple times. This violates multiple bank policies. It violates the law, in this case, New York State law, about the way that you're supposed to conduct yourself as a financial institution, looking the other ways, all these insane wire transfers for millions and millions of dollars. So to me, that's my final thing here. These are the files I want. I want the actual banking records. I want the LLC formation documents.
Follow the money.
I want the trust. Yeah, from The Wire, my favorite quote, from Lester Freeman. If you start to follow the money, you don't know where the fuck it's going to take you. And that's really what the whole story is about. And yes, I understand the salacious details, and I spent a lot of time on it here, the pedophilia investigation and all of that, but it's secondary to the level of influence that he had. And to the extent that it mattered because he was so important in some respect that everyone was either able to look the other way or enable it or empower it, and to make it happen in such a systematic way that involves all the world's most powerful elite. So that's my final thing, is release the Epstein files that actually matter and show us who he was. It's not just about intelligence, it's about the financial network. And the reason I think that it's being covered up here is because it does implicate everybody. I think it implicates multiple governments, specifically the Israeli government. I think it also implicates the United States government. I think it's very uncomfortable for the world's richest and most powerful elite. It shows it, and in the Bush administration, it shows the Trump administration, it shows the Biden administration who sat on some of these. Some of the most powerful and influential people in the whole world. It's not necessary that they're on tape, but perhaps they're financially entangled. Perhaps the tapes were used, at a time. And that's, I think, the most disappointing thing about this. So my goal here was to give people the language they can use as to why it validates your feelings as to why something is being covered up. And there's a reason they don't talk about this. They call you a conspiracy theorist. These are all facts. Everything that I've laid out.
Can I say one thing? That was awesome. Thank you.
I don't
know what the non-sexual version of being turned on is, but that was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's almost like the blackmail ring, the sexual blackmail ring for the global elites is the conspiracy. Simply following the money outside of the child sex trafficking might be what incriminates the most people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely will.
And
Yes.
it's almost like it benefits them for there to be focus on the child sex ring because they might not be tied to it.
Or to talk in stupid terms of client list, and it's like, guys,
they're all on the island. They're all on the island fucking the
that's
girls. It's like, as long as the focus is on that, it will almost be a letdown to find out, oh, actually they didn't have sex with any girls, but he was giving Ehud Barak $2.3 million or whatever. And then the people go, it's only $2.3 million. What's the big deal? We thought they were having sex. It's actually to their benefit for the public to believe this blackmail, this sexual blackmail ring, and then be quote unquote let down by. We should hope that there are less people having sex with children, by the way. We all want that to not happen. But
that doesn't mean that we shouldn't continue to shine light on what's going on over here and understanding his influence and why he was able to operate with impunity despite being a registered sex offender. That's a thing that seems so peculiar and lends itself to conspiracy. Why was he able to behave in this manner? Why was he able to, why were the higher ups of this bank able to thwart their responsibility to the SEC, to their investors?
In 2 weeks, if I withdraw $9,900 in 2 weeks, the federal government's knocking on my door. Like, JP Morgan is going to flag my account.
I thought
and
it has
we're
to be
done.
over 10 grand for them to do
No, but if it's 9,900, they have a mandatory reporting, but if they have things in the bank to make sure that you're not, if it looks suspicious to do 9,900. 2 weeks and they're like, all right, he's trying to violate, trying to make sure that he doesn't come under reporting. We're going to the feds. We're notifying the IRS. The IRS, by the way, again, has all of this documentation.
Yeah, the bank's not so stupid to be like, oh, it wasn't 10,000,
right? Yeah, they're not dumb. Right, yeah, exactly.
Times.
They have software. They literally Palantir. That's what they use Palantir for, to automatically flag all of these suspicious activity. My point is only that all of this exists. And you, as Americans, you guys need the language to be able to know what to ask for. I was telling Mark earlier, one of the reasons why it took so long to get COINTELPRO and MK Ultra is that it took people breaking into a warehouse to learn about the specific code words so that they could then FOIA and ask to investigate.
Oh, wow.
Without knowing what to ask for, you don't know what to ask for. It's an unknown unknown, in the words of Donald Rumsfeld. Like, it's one of those things where you can't even begin to go down the rabbit hole if you don't even know where to start.
This is interesting.
Yeah. And this is why, and by the way, again, there are very, very powerful people right now today who are trying to make sure you don't look at this. You have the Prime Minister of Israel, former Prime Minister of Israel, Naftali Bennett. He never worked for Mossad. There's an entire influencer set right now. Mark Levin, now it includes the President of the United States, all of these like kind of Zionist influencers who are calling you an anti-Semite because they say that there's no evidence. And they define the terms to be like, he worked for Mossad. I'm not saying that he directly was an employee for Mossad. He was run from the very beginning. I'm saying that he shows all of the hallmarks, to use an infamous phrase, of being some sort of an asset, working with these various intelligence agencies. And I think
so. He was not Mossad, like in the Mossad, but he was an asset to Mossad, which is his girlfriend Maxwell, right? Jesleen.
That stuff is so dirty that they just don't want to get into it. And this is where Trump, I mean, we have to be honest. We have to call it out.
Bro,
you ran on this.
Yeah.
I have the evidence here that we can go through of like what they said in 2023 and
so
what they say today.
Yeah, plus the 7 congressmen that voted against Ro Khanna's amendment.
I know.
Like, that's,
It's
as blatant as you.
All right, guys, let's take a break for a second. Listen, it's summer. Grill season is upon us.
Yes.
And if you're the type of guy who takes pride in a perfectly seared steak, like a real man, it's time to stop messing around with flimsy kitchen gear. That's why you need HexClad, the cookware that's serious about giving you the perfect sear. Not only do HexClad pans give you that perfect sear, they're durable, they're easy to clean up, stainless steel strength, toxin-free, non-stick convenience, and they look damn good on that stovetop. But the real game changer is HexClad's Japanese Damascus steel knives. These things are stupid sharp, perfectly balanced, and tough enough to handle everything from carving up a tomahawk ribeye to dicing onions like a pro, and most importantly, everything comes with a lifetime warranty. Buy it once, use it forever. And right now, you can get 10% off your order with our exclusive link. Just head to hexclad.com/flagrant and level up your kitchen before your next cookout. Cook better with Hex. Use the code FLAGRANT. Let's get back to the show. But we were in this this very interesting media spin in the last few days where, I was doing what I thought we're supposed to do, which is hold our elected officials accountable for the promises that they say they will make. I didn't realize that. Now I know better. That you're just supposed to let them do whatever the fuck they want, despite them promising.
As long as you're consistent.
Yeah, you just have to be consistent.
That's right.
But yeah, to that note, I've thought about this a lot. I actually think that when the person you voted for is in power, that's when you have to be the loudest.
You're exactly right. Thank you for saying that.
Because that's the only opportunity for you to get the things that they promised
enacted.
Yes.
When someone that you did not vote for is in power, there's nothing you can do because they're not going to do the things you asked for anyway. So you should be stomping the pavement. You should be clamoring. And when they're not doing the things, you should be going, hey, this is not what I voted for. This is the thing you want. This is the thing. These are against everything that you said. Not everything, but
Otherwise,
most
you're
of
in
the
a
things you
cult.
said.
You're in a cult because
Exactly.
everybody's like, trust the plan. No, I actually don't trust the plan. Like during the
I
Iran
hate that
thing,
40 chess shit. I hate to trust the process.
Yeah.
How about I trust what the fuck you said you were going to do, and how about you do it?
Thank you. I mean, again, this is important. Everybody is always like, oh, there's a split in the MAGA base. I actually think MAGA, by and large, will always kind of support Trump. But that I'm going to define the terms narrowly. And this is kind of where we're all speaking to.
Yeah.
The people we're speaking to are not like MAGA, maybe some of them. A lot of them are disaffected, they're men, they're people who are tangentially interested in politics, and the reason why the Epstein story was important to them is it confirmed basically the way that they thought about the international elite, and they saw Trump and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino as those who would work to usurp that power.
A conduit to justice.
And exactly, and for them to watch that betrayal now that's happening is one that only confirms the way that the system basically works. And it causes very uncomfortable questions here.
I was saying this.
Yeah.
I was saying this yesterday, but it's like if I wanted to vote for somebody that was going to keep the Epstein files under wrap, that was going to extend the foreign wars and wars, and was going to increase the budget, I would have voted for Kamala.
Yeah, that's right. And by the way, probably would have done it more competently. I'll say it.
Way more.
I'll just say it.
Because
Like,
they would have way more.
Yeah.
It would have been very easy.
Yeah,
Flip it on to them.
and we wouldn't have had to live through this last 6 months of like whatever bullshit is happening in the current day. I mean, yeah, look, I mean, literally today there is, Joey, you want to go ahead and pull this up? You can go on my Twitter feed. Donald Trump is sending $10 billion of new offensive weapons to Ukraine. Not only that, by the way, it actually came out from the Financial Times that he reportedly told Zelensky the Ukrainians leaked this part of the phone call. Who knows if they're telling the truth, but the Trump administration has not denied it. Is Donald Trump asked Zelensky if Ukraine could hit Moscow and actually asked them, hey, Zelensky, Vladimir, he said, do you have what you need to be able to hit Moscow, to hit St. Petersburg? These are the World War III fears that you guys know the last time here we were spending an hour on Ukraine. So you can disagree with me if you like. He said he wasn't going to do that.
So here's the thing, and this is where I have like a little bit, I give him a little bit of wiggle room, and maybe it was just hubris. I think Trump actually thought that he was going to walk in. I think Trump actually thought that the only reason there are wars is because of lobbyists lobbyists in government basically going, hey, we need to sell more military weapons, so let's have some wars around. So he's like, once I get in, I'll just call it Vlad, and I'll be like, yo, Vlad,
He was
chill
already
out.
president once, man. He
knows the game.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough, and that's very fair. And then that could be my naivete, and I'll be held accountable for that, right? And I guess I'm like hoping best case scenario, because at the end of the day, I don't care what fucking side you're on. You don't want to see hundreds of thousands of people get murdered.
Yeah, that's right.
You do for profit.
Yeah.
You do not want to see hundreds of thousands of people get murdered for profit. So you can say I told you so. You can do all this other shit, but at the end of the day, you just have to ask yourself: do you want to see hundreds of thousands of human beings get killed for profit?
And millions, actually, now.
Millions. Okay, millions. I personally don't.
Yeah, I don't.
I personally don't.
Right.
So what I'm going to do is, if there's somebody that says I aim to stop the foreign wars, and there's another person that says, well, we got to do what's right to keep on fighting. All I hear is less people dead, more people dead. If you can sleep at night voting for the person that says more people dead over the person that says less people dead, that's fine. I can't.
Yeah.
That's not for me.
Me, same.
That's not for me. I see what the fuck Gaza looks like, and I'm like, I want that to stop.
Yeah.
I see what the fuck is happening in Ukraine and Russia, and I want that to stop. So I don't feel that, oh, you regret whatever. I don't regret a fucking second for voting for the guy who said that less people are going to die.
Also, all the things about he lied, he's a liar. I don't know, man. He promised he would overturn Roe vs. Wade the first time, and he got that done. So I thought he could get shit done.
The January 6th protesters, he's like, I'll pardon all them, and he did.
He did, yeah.
It's just important also to say what promises are being kept, what are not. All right, so immigration, I actually say he's kept a lot of his promises.
Unfortunately.
Okay? But we'll argue about this later whenever we record for my show. But my point around here is let's look specifically. Epstein. The Epstein memo is released when? The day before Benjamin Netanyahu visits the United States of America for the third time in 6 months.
That's what I said.
President of the United States.
That's what I said. That's what I
is released when?
That's what I said, bro. All of a sudden, Netanyahu's coming over for dinner, and all of a sudden, the case is getting dropped on social media. The same week Netanyahu comes over, Epstein case gets all fucked up. I said that during the week. That's weird. Coincidence, huh?
Hey, we'll argue about this later, whenever we record for my show. But my point around here is, let's look specifically. Epstein. The Epstein memo is released when? The day before Benjamin Netanyahu visits the United States of America for the third time in 6 months.
July 4th weekend.
President of the United States. We have Benjamin Netanyahu, who, by Trump's own account, attacked Iran by the U.S. green light, where U.S. diplomacy was used as a ruse in order for the Israelis to conduct a military operation. We have United States military assets that were used to bomb Iran, which is, I mean, gotta be one of them. Like, again, like you said, you had a presidential campaign where, yes, Trump would always say, we cannot let Iran have a nuclear bomb. And I know this, and maybe I was too close to it. I knew many of the people involved, like in the actual decision making, and I know that they have ridiculed people who have, quote, wanted to bomb Iran for years. So then to watch that all just flip around, and now President Trump is the greatest deal maker and strength artist of all time, when you would have ridiculed this level of logic long before, and we have all of this reporting that actually nuclear, it's like actually the nuclear program really wasn't destroyed, and the reason that you could look at that is that the Israelis are leaking it, right? You know, Joe, if you want to pull that up, Israel intelligence says Iran nuclear facility not destroyed. This is from the New York Times a couple of days ago.
Oh my God!
And so look, like,
so now there's a reason to continue.
Now we got to continue, right? And it's like, oh, but I was told that the 12-day war was the only time it was ever going to happen. Well, do you guys want to do some history? All right. So in 1981, Israel took out the Iraqi nuclear reactor. They bombed it, and they said we have solved the Iraqi nuclear program question for all time. What did we end up invading Iraq for, Mark? For WMDs, right? And what actually happened as a result of that is that the nuclear program was driven underground, and Saddam actually was more convinced than ever that he needed to acquire nuclear weapons, to the point where he almost tried to create an image where he was having nukes, which caused the United States to invade him in 2003. In 2007, Israel did what? It struck the Syrian reactor and the nuclear program, and the decision point beyond that was, listen, it's just about the nukes. It's not about regime change. Does anyone want to tell me what happened to the Syrian regime? It was replaced by whom? Al-Qaeda. On behalf of whom? Israel, all right? Israel literally supported the Syrian jihadist government. And ironically, today, they're actually bombing them, because now the Al-Qaeda government is acting like Al-Qaeda and persecuting religious Druze minorities in the country. And by the way, their justification, the Israelis for bombing them, is that Syria has moved across the new border that Israel has declared for itself by seizing parts of Syria. Now, we are supporting Ukraine for what? Because Russia invaded them. What is a seizure of territory as a result of a regime change operation in Syria? What is that a violation of norms?
Rules
may I
for
say?
thee and not for
of the
me.
rules-based international order and the way that a civilized nation would conduct itself?
Well,
a Western nation?
I think the concern here is really like, if you are an autonomous nation, you got to handle your candle. So if you want to do all this stuff in the Middle East,
my guest.
that's on you.
Yeah, but you bear the consequences.
It
and you
seems
pay
like
for it.
It seems like we bear the consequences.
Yeah,
And
okay.
I think that's where like an important fracture right here. If Israel's like, all right, we're going to go about it alone, and this is what we think is the best for our safety, it's like, okay, well, you go do that. The problem is, every time they're about to go about it alone, they say we'll go about it alone. I think we get a phone call a few hours later, and it seems like we go back it up.
That's right.
And you can really do whatever you want in the world with impunity if America has your back no matter what.
Yes.
And I think that's the kind of imbalance of power right there, and it definitely feels like there's an imbalance in terms of the relationship, in terms of what we're offering each other. And now we're in a circumstance where, like, the war against Hamas has gone 2 years, and you look at them, and Americans are starting to go like, "What? It's really kind of destroyed." I feel like you did it.
Not kind of, like, it's destroyed.
Yeah, it's destroyed. And then there's all
Yeah.
these people that, and I think Americans are starting to be like, okay, so we're paying for this. I can't buy an apartment. I can't buy a house. I got $300,000 worth of school loans, but we're still selling billions of dollars over here. And you can't begrudge Americans for starting to feel like there's an imbalance in this relationship.
Not even begrudge. I mean, honestly, America, like,
But I
it's
think-
been this way for years.
But I
We just
think
gotta
that-
wake up now.
But I think the important thing to understand is, like,
Yeah.
it's not saying that an independent country can't go do what it
Correct.
needs for its salvation.
Right.
You just have to bear the consequences for those actions.
Yeah.
And I think Americans are starting to feel like, we bear the consequences, at least financially right now.
You're absolutely
And if we
right.
end up in some sort of ground invasion in Iran, we will bear the consequences.
There's no question. What a nation of what I forget the population. Of
9
Israel.
million or
Yeah,
something like
9
that, 8 million, yeah.
They're going to be able to invade a country of 90 million.
Yeah.
By the way,
Additionally-
yes, I do know the population of Iran.
I think we all know.
Yeah,
Tucker.
thank you, Tucker Carlson. But look, let's really dwell on this. Like, yes, what's happening in Gaza is being funded by the United States of America, and there's a large constituency here in America that says that's necessary for Israel to take out terrorism, whatever the hell that means. Apparently requires killing at the minimum of like 17,000 children. I personally don't think civilized Western nations conduct themselves in that manner. And everyone's like, well, what would you do? I was like, America has the template, guys. Look, I will not defend the U.S. invasion of Iraq. Do you know how many thousands of American service members died and were wounded in missions to protect Iraqi civilians?
Ground.
That was on the ground.
Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground, where the American service members are maimed and were blown up to protect Iraqi civilians from an intra-civil war.
This is a really...
That is how you conduct a counter-terrorism operation.
I think the point that you're making is really important.
Yes.
Right? Is that in an effort, I imagine, to save Israeli lives, which I do empathize with because I want to save American lives.
That's right.
What they're doing is conducting war that would save the most Israeli lives, but unfortunately kills the most Palestinian lives.
Yeah, that's right.
And what you're innocent Palestinian lives. And then what you're making the argument is in Iraq, instead of us doing that, which we could have absolutely just
it would have
flattened
been
the
easy.
entire
We had the
thing.
greatest bomb. Who do you think sells all these bombs
Of
to
course,
Israel?
of
Where's it
course.
coming from?
But we made a decision to do that boots on the ground, which cost American lives,
Yes,
which was
many.
deeply regrettable. I
Yeah.
don't want a single American life.
Me either.
But I think that is where we can put ourselves in a position of criticism for the way the war is being waged, because we have been in that circumstance
Twice.
And I think
in Iraq
that's
and in
one piece
Afghanistan.
that
it's a really good argument.
That is what war is. You have to sacrifice.
Well, okay, no.
But I think that's
There's
also-
two types of war. So this is the thing. They said it's to get rid of Hamas, and in that way, we are not at war with the Palestinian people. We are at war with Hamas. So how would you conduct that war? We have an entire 20 years of experience, the United States military, where what we do is we want to separate the terrorists from the civilian population. So we make sure that the civilians are protected. Soldiers are put in harm's way in order to separate those two and to be able to kill them. It requires a shitload of city combat. It's brutal. It's very difficult. It's bloody. Ask the Navy SEALs, ask the Marines, all the people who had to participate. But it was semi-successful, at least in 2009 in the surge. It reduced the amount of civilian casualties as a result of the Iraqi civil war. But the other way to fight is when you're at war with the population and you want complete and total destruction.
Yeah.
That's when you fight like the United States on Japan in 1945.
And I agree with
and
what you're
what's
saying.
more analogous to what we're happening? So
I
we can
agree.
look at the
Let me go,
intention.
Tyler, yeah.
No, all I'm saying is, Akash, it's the intention and the words matter.
Yeah.
And the intention is obvious that they are actually at war with the population themselves, right?
Not
And
just Hamas the terrorist
Not
group.
just Hamas the
Yeah.
terrorist
Which is
group.
very interesting.
And I think that's a very important point for people to digest.
And
just to
that-
look at the conduct.
That's the
Yeah.
piece that I agree with you, that Americans feel like we're bearing the brunt and all that. But also, when we invade, we are usually told, or when we aid a country in war, we are always told we are on the moral high ground.
Yeah, that's right.
With Ukraine, Russia is invading Ukraine, this country that cannot defend itself. That's why we have to send
Tiny
aid.
little Ukraine.
Now we're looking and we're seeing who we're supporting.
Right.
And we don't have a moral high ground. They don't have a moral high ground. And yet we keep supporting them. So I agree with you that we feel like, why are we bearing the brunt of this and we don't have jobs? But also, morally, we don't even have a high ground. So why are we supporting when we
I
bear the
wouldn't say
brunt?
Hamas has a high ground either.
No, no,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
the way
yeah, yeah.
Israel is, Israel is flattening Gaza, we don't have a moral high ground with the way they are doing it. If there were boots on the ground and they're losing civilians, okay, maybe. And Hamas is doing X, Y, Z.
This is why, as America, I actually think we should not talk about moral high ground. I know that
We have no.
guys,
we
every
cannot
time,
stand
like
on
let's
moral high
look at the
ground for
history
anything.
of
Yeah.
U.S. moral
Yeah.
interventions. Serbia, disaster.
Oh my God.
Kosovo, disaster.
Yeah.
2003. Goes without saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I can go on forever. Like
No,
Libya,
I don't think
Afghanistan.
I don't think
like,
we do it with the moral high
Yeah.
ground. I think the perception we are sold
Yeah, I agree
is
with
moral
you.
high ground, and
Yeah.
now we're just seeing...
Talking about the story.
Yeah,
That-
this
well,
is-
I actually, that's why when I argue with liberals, I always tell them, I go, look, guys, I don't think you're doing anybody any good here using words like genocide or and it's not because I don't disagree with you per se. It's just that when you couch, for example, when, and I talked about this last
Then the
time.
debate becomes about the
It's
definition. of
humanitarianism and
yeah.
genocide, and it's like, no, we're not talking about that. We're
That was-
talking about America's national interest.
Yeah, we were talking.
Is this good for us or not?
Mark and I were talking about
Yeah.
that, where it's just like now there's this debate on whether or not it's genocide. It's
Right.
like whatever right below genocide is really bad too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
And
mass murder.
And Mark is like, it's like someone says like, I'm not a pedophile, I just like 16-year-olds.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's like, yeah, that's
Isn't there a
still
term for
bad.
that? It's like hegiliophile.
Yeah, it's called pedophile.
Yeah,
That's what it
no,
is.
exactly. I
That's
agree.
it. There's
yeah.
one term. It's
Right.
just pedophile.
Yeah, it's just exactly. But my point beyond that is like, look, let's define things in terms of America's national interests. What good are we getting from this? We're bombing Iran. We had a terror. You guys remember the terror alerts in the mid 2000s?
Yeah.
Do you guys remember that?
Yeah. Orange today.
Whenever the Iran thing happened, they literally sent out a terror alert across the whole country, and they warned Americans living abroad to expect retaliatory attacks. That's America, our country. We are being felt the pain here,
But
right?
you're just a Qatari asset. Bro.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But you know what's funny? The Qatari government hates me because I lived in Qatar. I went to high school there, and I hated it so much that I've talked for years about the mistreatment of the Indian slave laborers.
Disclosing. I've invested. Disclosure.
Okay. No, but I just say it like because it's about being foreign, some form of foreign asset or whatever. Why can't we all just be people talking in our own national interest? And I think the reason that they throw out anti-Semite and race, whatever, on all of this is specifically to shut down this conversation. And the best thing that's ever happened is that we're all here and we can just talk honestly.
It's really unfortunate because I think that it's almost like a permission slip for anti-Semitism in a way.
Oh,
there
you're
are
exactly.
a lot of
It's
real
increased real anti-Semitism.
Yes, but it's not even whether it's increased or not. There are a lot of real anti-Semites out there.
Yeah, that's true.
And then when you throw the term around when you're criticizing a sovereign nation, it gets lumped in with the people who actually do hate people because of their religion and ethnicity.
Right.
And that's the problem I have. Like I always say this other times. Like everybody thinks I'm Jewish, so I get all the anti-Semitism. It exists. Like you guys might not hear it. I get it. I see it. So it's like. You can't just throw that term around so flippantly because then nobody will take it. It's the boy who cried wolf. Nobody will take it seriously when it actually does happen, and it does happen, and it is a real fucking problem. And I'm very concerned about like Jews in America who are dealing with it, and they're concerned. So it's we got to be very specific. Like the green black guys throwing it around. He's calling the Pod Save America guys anti-Semites.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. It's crazy, guys.
I think they also dismissed Elon's salute as well. I think the ADL was like, no,
yeah, they
it was a
did. Yeah,
misunderstanding.
that's right. They actually did. The ADL, which, look, I mean, we could argue about that all day long, but the ADL is basically an
Bro, so much knowledge just being thrown at you at 100 miles per hour. You're just like just trying to catch up with this guy. It's insane. Like, this episode is fucking insane. It's dope. This live stream is giving me life. I love it. After this episode, though, I'm going to be definitely going to sleep, all right? I'm going to try to. I got to wake up early. So after this one, we're done.
for Israel. And this gets to the problem that I have with this whole like anti-Semitism industrial complex is they've conflated criticism of this foreign government with genuine anti-Semitism, which is the worst thing that you could possibly do for anti-Semitism itself, because the term loses all meaning. And look, Zoran, if we want to talk about, I mean, you know, they blasted this guy, anti-Semite. We're in the most Jewish city, in the world, except for Tel Aviv?
Second most,
Right, and he just won the Democratic primary and actually a lot of Jewish votes. That should tell you something, guys. That should show that these attacks don't work. But the thing is, unfortunately, in Washington, they still work. It's the worst possible thing that you could be called because of the way, look, it's ideology and it's money, and they're mutually reinforcing. So, for example, and I talked about this on Tucker, you were talking to me about it, I don't get invited to all the things I used to get invited to. And that sounds really silly, but that's the currency of the town. It's fine. I just don't care. I get to come here, right? They're always asking me to connect with you. They're like, hey, man, I think Congressman so-and-so should go on Andrew Schultz. I'm like, I guarantee you he doesn't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not giving you his phone number. That's what I'm telling you. But that's my point, though, right? It's like, there's a nice trade-off for me, and I've chosen this. But my point is, with them, the currency of the town is one that is entirely funded by AIPAC or pro-Zionist interests. And the thing is, the way it's so nefarious is it bleeds into everything. It's in people who are working at like a tax foundation to lobby for low taxes are being funded by people who are also very pro-Israel. So if employees there were to, like, let's say make an Instagram post about Palestine, even though it has nothing to do with taxes, they would still be fired. They would be drummed out of the organization. And guys, like, these people don't make a ton of money. Like the lower level, the up-and-comers. summers. Like when I was in my early 20s, we actually made zero money.
So it's not worth the risk for them.
Of course. I mean, listen, you gotta eat. You want to advance. You want to be connected, to get a fellowship, to do whatever. You have to fall in line, even if you don't even work on Israel or Palestine. Even if it's just a tangential thing, and you're like, it's kind of fucked up.
This is what happened in Hollywood, not specifically with Israel Palestine. I actually don't think at all with that. I think more with identity politics.
Oh, absolutely. You're
and
exactly
I think
right.
that people are just really scared that if they had a serious opinion about anything, that they would be like,
you're done,
thrown out. They'd be, and I think now we're moving away from that.
Well, I think that's why what you do is so courageous, man. I'm like somebody who's got actually like intertwined with like I mean, you can say it better than me, but everything I've read, like the studio system has got to be one of the biggest bottlenecks of pop culture in the world. Like it's literally
you
run
just gotta
by
not care.
a couple of agencies and like these like movie distributors, and you're fucked if they push them
They
off.
still think he's Jewish. He's good.
But this is why like it's always like annoying when like people will say like, oh, you're just doing this thing for Trump or grifting. It's like grifting. It's like you don't realize how
the real grift
cost.
is the other way. It's
I'm in entertainment. I'm not in politics. I'm not in a media company. I'm in entertainment. So like the idea of even having Trump on the pod, and obviously we asked to have Kamala and everybody else, and none of them came. But like that costs us.
Oh yeah.
There's not a financial
doing a hostage video for Kamala. That's you're a grifter. That's grifting. It's like
1,000%. Right? Like
I get it.
Doing those things for Kamala, you would absolutely. And I think that people don't realize that because I think they assume, it's politics better than anybody. It's good versus evil. So as long as you're on the side of good, they don't see it as grift.
Oh yeah.
Right. So that there's all these people that are grifting off Trump. Absolutely happens. And then there's people grifting against Trump. The Never Trump thing is a grift as well.
The Lincoln, look it up. But also look up the pedophilia stuff with the Lincoln Project. Dude, I'm just throwing that out there. People want to look into that. But,
now I want to look into it. But I guess what I'm saying is like the idea that like in order to grift, you have to be like financially satisfied. I imagine by that thing. And in the entertainment industry, the industry that we exist in, you're putting yourself in harm's way.
Dude, of course.
So I don't even, like, for example, like I had flat out Netflix people saying, and who fucking knows, but like, I'm up for consideration or whatever for an Emmy for life. And I just had people tell me straight up, they're like, listen, dude, like, Trump on the pod, like, there's no way that they're going to give you an, it is the best hour comedy that was put out. It should win. It just is. You know what I mean? Like, no disrespect to anybody's there, but it's not as good. Right? And it's, and if you want to judge it by any metric, you want to judge it by views, it has more views. If you want to judge it by like impact, you want to judge it by in my personal opinion, obviously. But like, that's the cost of it. So I think that's the frustrating thing I would imagine for all of us when we're like, no, we're actually curious about talking to these people and having these conversations, and we understand the cost of doing it. And we're willing to take on that cost. There is no risk when you're the anti-Trump grift and you just do all these things, you virtue signal, you say, I told you so to us for criticizing Trump. It's like, if you actually cared, you'd be worried about the midterms, and you'd be worried about the elections, and you would see people that were disillusioned by Trump not living up to his promises. If you actually cared, and you'd be like, hey, here's an opportunity to bring people into a coalition and in a democracy, gain more votes and potentially win.
Yeah, but you're presuming that they care about those things.
And that's
my point.
They
don't care about it.
They want clicks and views.
Yes,
they're the exact thing that they're accusing us, but they are so caught up in their own hubris that they don't realize it. And you sit back here and and I watch it, and I kind of just laugh at it. But people take it serious. They look at these people, and I think it just makes them feel good in the moment. Yeah. And they can't disassociate that to like what might be better for the country.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, something I've always appreciated about this pod is like we just talk, right? And we can talk to anybody. And I mean, I've known you long enough to know when you were a Bernie guy, right? And I always tell people that.
Bernie guy.
Yeah, no, I know that. And that's why people were so shocked to see you come around. And I was like, guys, you just don't know Andrew, right? Yeah. But it's one of those things where because I've been able to get to know all of you and the whole comedy scene or whatever, when people ask about podcast bros and MAGA, I actually think you're very representative of the audience in your turn against people who it seems were like fighting for the system, and to the extent that there was an appeal of Trump. And that's why it explains for somebody who could vote for Trump and also be like, yeah, Mom Donnie seems America first to me. And it's because the horseshoe
New
there.
York first, by
Or
the way,
sorry,
but
New
go
York
on.
first. But
Yeah, yeah.
okay, but the
That's been
point is
conflated in news a
fine.
lot,
but
but yeah.
the horseshoe there is about talking about the country or the city that we're living in, as opposed to these more establishment interests that you were elected to fight against in Trump's case. But that's the appeal. And somebody was like, "Oh, you speak to MAGA, right?" And I was like, "No, I actually don't." I was like, to the extent I have any authority, it's with 18 to 35-year-olds who are interested in politics, the vast majority of whom are pretty bipartisan, a lot voted for
Common
Trump.
sense.
Yeah, but like those
common
people
sense. People
are
are right.
actually very independent. They do go along with trends and other things, and they, most important thing is, they both think for themselves.
Yeah, they're not in a cult.
And they are not in a cult. Exactly.
Everybody's capped. Not everybody. There are very loud people that are captured by the cults.
Yes.
And the cults are rewarded online with the algorithms.
Yes, of
So
course.
There's the views, and there's the clicks, and there's the pats on the back, and there's the yes queens in the comments. But in reality, it's not representative of actual people.
Mm-hmm.
So when the actual people see people having common sense conversations, which I hope that we have on this podcast, you know, I mean today, right now, we had the PodSave guys on the pod.
Oh, come on,
Do you know what I
man.
mean?
Yeah,
and like,
good idea.
what's so interesting is like, their criticism was the exact same thing that I was saying. They
Yeah.
immediately were like, this reaction that I told you so is like typical fucking liberal,
Yes.
dumb shit, where it's just like, we have an opportunity to use this frustration to win, but these people don't care about winning.
Right.
So they're acknowledging the grift as well. And these are the most liberal guys you can imagine.
Well,
the
you know
most-
why that they say that? Because they actually won an election. They know how to win a fucking election.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
worked for Barack Obama. Like Barack Obama. I mean, do you guys
2-0.
remember the state of Ohio? He won that state.
Yeah.
Okay, he
Yeah.
won Indiana. That's insane.
And MAGA does
Like,
it so well, bringing
yeah.
people in. Like,
Yeah.
you've seen people go to the protests, like,
Yeah.
where they pretend to fake protest on the other side.
Right.
So, like, liberals will go to the MAGA side, and then
Right.
all the MAGA people are like, yeah, come over.
Yeah, they're like, hey, come on in,
Yeah.
right? But my point actually is the way that that was sold. But now that people like you are beginning to speak out, people like me and others, oh, it's like you are fake, or, you know, you're not trusting the plan enough. And it's like, I would argue that the least patriotic thing you could do is actually trust the government. I would actually argue also in the case of when you support a political movement, is that the least impactful thing you could do is trust the plan.
And
because the people who don't trust the plan, they get shit done. You think Israel trusted the plan?
Nope.
When we were trying to do diplomacy, they were like, no, we're fucking bombing Iran, okay?
then it worked
you're
out for
coming
them.
in with us. Yeah, exactly. They always win.
And that's
Yeah.
the thing. And I promise you,
Yeah.
I don't promise you, but I would imagine in the next week or two, we will get some disclosure about the Epstein files that we were not going to get.
Right.
And the reason we got that is
Because of
because
the
there are
outrage.
people speaking out. There's a reason why the White House responded to us.
Yeah, that's right.
The people are speaking out. It's not just us, but it's a lot of people speaking out about our frustrations. And whether you like this or not, the White House, the current administration, is very transactional. If they feel that people are becoming disillusioned, they acknowledge it immediately. So if you do not voice these things, you do not get what the fuck you
you're not
want.
gonna get it.
It's like, and what do you actually, at the end of the day, what do you want? Do you want to feel good in the moment? Do you want to get your little clicks and views, make your little face to camera videos, or do you want to actually have some form of justice for 1,000 girls that were victimized?
According to the government, according to our
According
U.S.
to the
Attorney
government,
General,
1,000 that were victimized.
Right.
What do you actually want? Because I'm glad you feel good with your pats on the back. To me, it'd be pretty good to know if 1,000 girls gets a little bit of justice. That would make me feel pretty good.
Yeah, it should.
So before we leave, can I ask, what is Trump's game with the Epstein files? Why would he, while he's president, get, you know, Epstein is arrested, killed, dies, and then runs on releasing the files, does the fake sort of kangaroo release, and then now says that he was not working with any other conspirators?
There's only two possible theories, which I was not that open to this one, which was that Trump is implicated in until the more recent statements. Why are my boys and gals like paying attention to all this? You guys all need to move on. Or on camera where he's like, are you really still asking about Jeffrey Epstein? By the way, the day after he put out that Truth Social, he was tweeting about revoking Rosie O'Donnell's citizenship.
That was funny.
So it's no, I mean, it's funny, but he's like,
Yeah.
you guys are focused on Epstein when there's all this other stuff happening. It's like, bro, you're literally tweeting about Rosie O'Donnell getting denaturalized as a citizen.
Yeah.
But that's one theory, is that, look, I mean, I read you guys
He
the
said
quote.
something where
He
he goes-
likes them young. He said that in 2002. He said it, so
And
maybe
you
he
know,
knew something.
15 years.
We're 6 months in.
Yeah.
How do you feel? What's the job that Trump is doing?
Oh no, sorry. I need to give the second.
Oh, my
that was
bad.
the first
Okay,
theory, which
Yeah.
I did not give credence to.
Yeah.
Also, Tucker made a good point. He's like, wouldn't have the Biden administration released it? I was
Right.
like, well, I thought that they would have, but listen, what if they wanted to protect Bill Clinton or
Nuclear
all this other stuff?
destruction.
You can't release one.
Right, and you have to release it
Because
all.
what would the Biden administration do? They'd release one person, Trump,
Right.
and then nobody
That
else.
wouldn't make a lot of
And
sense.
then we'd be like, okay.
According to Trump, they
Would you be
created
shocked
the
if
files.
Hunter was
Yeah,
on them?
right. Obama created the files. Okay.
And Hillary made the files about Clinton.
The second is that it would be devastating to our relationship with Israel, or it was at a request of Israel, or it'd be devastating to our relationship if the CIA is that to be exposed. I mean, for example, everybody knows the CIA killed Kennedy. Why has the CIA fought the release of these documents for 60 years?
Because they did. We're just as that is.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I think.
Yeah,
Okay. Again, let me be more precise in my language. I think that they were aware of and participated, at least in some form, in the plot that killed Kennedy. I'll put more
Or at least the
responsible.
cover-up,
Not the kill, at the very least, involved in the plot, and of course in the cover-up. That's like actually not a question. So why did they do that? Because they knew that it would break the American public's irrevocable trust in the way that they conduct business, and that's why they fought for years to make sure that it didn't happen, or that to release the documents. I think it's the same here in this case. It's like, look, what we have is so bad to the CIA, to the FBI, to Mossad, to Saudi, to whomever, all these governments, and to the Israeli prime ministers and others, that it would just be so revelatory of the way that we conduct business. It would make it impossible for us to continue business as usual. And sir, business as usual is so important that we just have to release all of this stuff. And that's how the pressure comes down on Kash Patel, on Dan Bongino, on the Attorney General. And yeah, I mean, it leads to them saying, Kash literally said in 2023, the Epstein files are under the direct control of the FBI director. He became the FBI director. And now he's like, it was all a conspiracy theory. He literally said that. The conspiracy theories were never true. The conspiracy theories you invented, man. So you were either lying then or you're lying now. Bongino. I mean, I have the clips that people can play if they want to of the stuff that we can never let up on this story. We can never let go. Yeah. Attorney General Pam Bondi from the White House lawn, which used to mean something. I have the client list on my desk. There are thousands of victims. There are all the files. We're ready to release them. And then, Akash, I think you said this. You were like, either it was all a lie or you exploited the of thousands of children to get elected. Yeah. That's pretty fucked up. Yeah. If you did. So there's no good answer here. Personally, I lean to the latter. I think it's an intelligence thing, and perhaps it has a crossover with Trump himself, which I did not believe until very recently.
When you say intelligence thing, and this seems more realistic to me, not that the intelligence has devised this blackmail scheme.
Yeah, exactly. As I laid out for the multiple hours.
But he was potentially an asset to multiple intelligence agencies. Correct. And they looked the other way at his sexual deviant behavior. Mm-hmm.
And then started to cover it up with the non-prosecution agreement.
Exactly.
And that's the complicity. That's the smoking gun. Yeah. And that's why it still remains. I mean, look, even the Justice Department admitted that was a bad deal. We never should have done it. Right. And you know what the irony is? It's the Justice Department themselves, Main Justice, the Washington, D.C. They're the ones who told Acosta to do the non-prosecution agreement. But then they turn around and they blame Acosta. And you need like, a patsy, man. I almost feel bad for the guy, in a way, because it looks like he was just doing what he was told, and he probably wanted to continue the investigation. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he still signed it. Yeah, I agree. He was complicit and he lived with it, and he got rewarded for it. He was the labor secretary
for like a day.
For a while, 2017 to 2019. Oh, he reigned for over 2 years.
And then they got him.
And then he was the patsy. They were like, hey, you gotta go. Somebody's got to go down for this, and he resigned. I think he's very rich and probably works in finance or whatever now. But my point is just that it goes up high, and unfortunately, we don't even really know how high, and what's left to be released is still just an immense amount of documentation, which we don't have a right to have it, like a theoretical right, but we almost have like a promise here from the campaign, from the president, that they would release everything. They would declassify everything, and they have immediately turned their back on that.
I gotta use the bathroom.
We're 6 months in. Give me your grade on Trump. The good, the bad. What's his report card grade?
Well, You know, I'm actually not important in this. Just like, let's look at the issues, like for things that I think he was elected on. I think he was elected on 2 issues, 3 primarily. Number 1 is the economy, because inflation was high. Inflation report came out today. It's actually increased 2.7% since June. A lot of that is, in my opinion, because of the incompetent way that they've rolled out the tariffs. It actually makes me really upset. I'm really pro-tariff. The idea of tariff, strategic tariffs. I think the way that this has been done has been, frankly, a disaster. The only reason that it didn't crash the economy is because he rolled them all back and said we're going to do a 90-day pause or whatever. But creating chaos in people's lives and fucking with people's businesses is terrible. Mark and I are new parents. Do you remember the stroller problem about how over 90% of strollers and car seats come from China? Well, the Up-A-Baby stroller that like everyone in New York has, that went up by hundreds of dollars as a result of the tariffs. Sorry, I think that's wrong. I think the car seats have become more expensive. It's like you were elected to make life better for people. That's a pretty material way, actually, that Trump directly impacted me and all other new parents here in the United States. So that's where something I think creating that chaos economically has been a problem. On the bill, the bill philosophically to me, I just think really comes away from a lot of the Trump promise. And I think I heard you talking about the bill. I mean, let's just look at the math, right? Like they are like, oh, well, we're going to cut spending. And it's like, well, okay, but you increase the defense budget by $150 billion, right? By the way,
Bro, this guy is nonstop. Bro, there's so much information. I went from Epstein to now to the economy to like the inner workings of like wokeism and like the counterculture of the APAC in Washington. I'm like, this guy, I'm gonna follow this guy on YouTube for sure. He said he has a podcast. I heard him say me and Mark have a kid now, so I'm like I'm assuming he's gay. So he's a gay Republican man that's just gunning for Epstein. Like this guy's next level. All right, this guy's next level. He's a gay Republican man that's going after fucking pedophiles, bro. This is America. All right, this is the America I want to live in. Gay dudes trying to kill motherfuckers for other kids' safety. That's what I like, bro. What the fuck is going on?
looked at the DOD. What happened there? You know, like, whoa, where are you, Doge? Why did we fire like somebody in the National Weather Service and not someone in the Pentagon who can't pass an audit for 5 years in a row? And so, you know, this is talk, and it was cheap in my opinion. Like, they increased the defense budget, and instead, you know, they put work requirements in Medicaid and in food stamps. I'm not necessarily against work requirements per se, but really what bothered me was the way they were increasing the dollar shift to the states. This is really wonky. I apologize to everyone, but the end result is that more people could probably lose healthcare and or food stamps. Again, we can have a conversation about welfare and food stamps and all of that, but it was the priority of increasing the defense budget, of extending the tax cuts, which are pretty overwhelmingly good for the top 1%.
Help people overseas, it seems, at the expense of.
Exactly. So helping people overseas, and you got people who are at least precarious, you know, in terms of that. So I think that the bill was a big miss, in my opinion.
On the simple promise of Make America Great Again, it seems life for most Americans is not as.
I think that the fundamentals still remain the same, and that's the problem. Is I don't see a concrete way to fix that. So yesterday, a report came out from the National Association of Realtors that the average first-time home buyer in the United States is now 38 years old. It used to be 27. And look, Trump can't just wave a magic wand and fix that. To the extent that he can do anything, it's to fire the Fed chair, and I guess, you know, let's give him credit. He's trying to do that. But my point is just that the GOP as a whole and that bill did not seem laser focused, you know, on those problems. So I would say I don't think it's gone very well. Then, you know, on immigration, I mean, look, it's controversial. I wait for Andrew. I would say of all the things that he, quote, promised to do, that's the one where he really has, you know, I think he's delivered. The problem, in my opinion, is like the way the administration decides to conduct itself is kind of like an Iraq, like shock and awe approach, where you come in with these big operations. Now, I will explain the logic. The logic is because there's 30 million people here, probably, who are illegal. Deporting them all, even with billions of dollars, is like probably impossible. So you want to stage these like large-scale things to get people to self-deport. And then about 1 million people or so, according to the administration, has left. We don't have a way of checking those numbers, which is why it's kind of difficult. But I would put it all together and I would say that the story to me is just chaos. It's like one that flips back and forth. We have Doge, which is in power. Elon's the co-president. Then he leaves, right? And now he's, talking about Epstein files and the America Party. And then we bomb Iran very shortly afterwards. We said we weren't going to do that. And then we had the tariff brouhaha, like in between. It doesn't feel as if there's like a steady hand on the wheel. Chaotically, I mean, and I would apply that to immigration as well. The biggest criticism Americans have right now about the immigration policy is not even necessarily deportation. It's the chaotic way that they feel it's being handled. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Like, why were people so mad at Biden over the border? Because of the chaos at the border. Yeah. And let's give Trump credit. He did fix that. There's 0 illegal crossings. Fine. But the point is now they look at the raids themselves and the way they're conducted and kind of like blown up by the White House as chaotic, right? And I think that when you put that together with the way that the tariff policy, the immigration policy, and even the war policy, I mean, we were negotiating with Iran and then we weren't negotiating with Iran. We berated Zelensky in the Oval Office and told him he didn't have the cards and we're giving him more weapons. It doesn't make any fucking sense. And then the Epstein thing is, well, you run on it, you say you have it, now you say you don't have it. It screams like chaos and kind of incompetence, and I can see why a lot of people are moving against it. So that's like my wholesome.
What grade would you give him?
Well,
that sounds all bad.
But me personally, I mean, I would go issue by issue. So like on foreign policy, I would give an F just in terms of Ukraine and Israel. On immigration, considering what he ran on, I would probably give him like a B+, just because on the merits, I think he actually is doing almost every single thing that he said he would do. If anything, I would say my criticism, I mean, I should be open about it. I'm very pro mass deportation, but my criticism of it is that it seems like in many cases they went more for the show as opposed to like the policy, and I think that's the problem. So that's like my personal criticism. But a lot of people, and also the reason I will not give it an A is because a huge portion of the immigration machine was used to go after these like pro-Palestine students for speaking out against Israel. I'm like, yo, fuck that. Sorry, okay, that's like a total, not only a free speech concern. It's like, why are you using the resources of my government to deport critics of another country? What? People who are here legally, this is the least of our problems, all right? But let's put that, to the side. So on the economy, I mean, look, this isn't me speaking. Like, people know I'm pretty out of step with like the trickle down GOP, but like, I don't know. I think the big beautiful bill was a disaster. Like not only in terms of its unpopularity, but it didn't, invest in all the things. It didn't invest in making America better, like as a country. There's no massive expansion of manufacturing tax credits. There's no like ability to compete and deal with China. It was really just kind of like a personal tax extension for the rich, more corporate tax extension for business as usual. I think business as usual is what he was elected to like go against. So for me, it's like a C. So you can average all that together. I don't know what that is.
Here's my question.
F, A+, C. Yeah. So
where does the Conservative Party go from here? We asked, and after the election, where does the Democratic Party go? The Conservative Party, what are y'all gonna do now?
Well, what do you mean Conservative Party?
Like the Republican Party, the Republicans.
Well, those are two very different things.
The Republican Party, where do they go from here?
What's the difference?
Conservative is an ideology. Republican is a party. So conservative. So to be conservative is that's a big. Yeah,
I thought
that's more of a meta conversation.
Is MAGA conservative? Or
no, in many cases, MAGA is not conservative. Actually, most MAGA voters are on Medicaid and they don't want it to be cut, so they don't care about entitlement spending. That's a non-conservative position, right? But it's conservative to cut government spending. So those are kind of a direct tension. I could talk forever about this. It's a very intro.
That's interesting. I didn't even know that MAGA and conservatives are not the same thing. That makes sense.
Kind of conversation like what it means to be conservative and kind of what it means to be a Republican. And Trump, in my opinion, the reason why he was able to succeed is because he wasn't conservative. And he even said that. He said, I'm not a conservative whenever he was running in the 2016 primary. He is originally, at least to me, was more what I would call a rightist, like more somebody like the European right, a culture warrior who kind of accepts the legitimacy of the social welfare state and has more populist policies, but that's not conservative. right? It's very, very different. I know this is semantics, but like it is
No,
important.
this is good,
It's
yeah.
important to like analyze like what we mean.
So
when
what
we say
happens
this.
to, I think what you're trying to say is the Republican Party.
Yeah, the Republican Party. I mean, look, they still have a lot of choices. You got 3.5 more years to go. Like
Yeah.
that's a long ass time. Like who knows? All of this could be ancient news. I don't think so. I think in general, if you look at the history of presidencies, you're basically baked by 100 days. They wasted their whole 100 days on Doge, in my opinion, which was a disaster. At this point, I think we could fairly say. And then they did the tax cut or the tax bill, which exploded the deficit. Increased defense spending by 150 billion.
Yeah, the next 100
They did
days wasn't
Israel.
much better.
You know, then they did Israel, the Iran thing. Now they're doing Ukraine. Who knows what's going to happen with that? I skipped over the tariffs, which I talked earlier, which were bad for the public and have not been handled competently really at all. So for them, I mean, their problem is that they're in a cult of personality. Like they're locked into Trump himself as an action. And the biggest problem for them is when John McCain lost, he was like, okay, you guys do what you want. When Bush left, he was like, I'm out, right? They fuck off. And with Trump, like, do you guys ever see him not trying to guide the Republican Party? He would never allow a post-mortem. When Romney lost, right? The entire Republican Party had to have a conversation. Who are we? What do we stand for? And the conclusion was, not that bullshit, not Romney, right? That's not going to stand with the Trump party, right? So I think that, you know, they have a lot of issues, like structurally, for where they want to go. In my opinion, they won the popular vote for the first time in 2004, since 2004, for a Republican. They flipped all kinds of crazy states because of the economy and really because of immigration. And if they don't find a way to flip their numbers on both of those, and especially if the American way of life does not get materially better at a structural level, I think they're going to lose. And I think they deserve to lose if that's what happens. If that age for a first-time home buyer goes from 38 from today to like 42, and if the home prices continue to go up and the supply continues to go down, if we see wages stagnant, if we don't see like real material changes to the way people live, I think that the Republicans will lose. And we always live in a change election.
I don't want to divert from this too much.
Yeah.
I know that we've probably got to wrap up soon because we got to do something
we have
for
to do
you.
something for you. Yes.
So just real quick, obviously, you know, we're in New York City right now, greatest city in the world.
Yes, sir.
And there's an interesting mayoral election coming up. What are your thoughts on the cultural circumstances that have happened that have propelled Mamdani to superstardom and a primary victory?
Mamdani there's this phrase from back in the day, and it's a vindicating phrase to me. It was all politics is local. That was what they used to say back in the day.
Yeah.
In 2010, that actually flipped because there were all of these Democrats who lived in Republican areas, and they just got blown out, even though they'd lived there for 20 years, because they're like, you support Obama, and the Republicans were like, oh, I can't deal with that. You know, he supports Obama.
Right.
Mamdani was a return, right? Because what his opponents did is they made their entire campaign against him about Israel, and he's like, no, guys, I'm talking about New York City.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the halal carts.
Yeah.
I'm talking about rent is too damn high.
Yeah.
And what I really love about that is it subverts all of this like national political rhetoric, DEI style language, and it brings us back to, what are you going to do about New York, dude?
Which is what people need when they're
That's
suffering.
what people need, exactly. And that this city, you know, people have made a lot about like, oh, Mamdani won the rich people making $100,000. I'm like, bro, New York, $100,000, you're like rent poor. You know what I'm saying? Like,
That's a good ass point.
Dude, you're like you're poor as shit, actually. On a bed, like
You're
a guy
legitimately eligible for the housing lot.
No, like guys making $50K in Iowa are way richer than you, who are making 100. Like
100%.
post-tax, post-state, local, federal, 100K in New York. Like I'm like,
You got
you're
roommates.
not. Yeah, it's like, bro, you got multiple roommates. Okay, you're like living in a 3-bed if you're like 25 in, I don't know, the East Alphabet City or something like that. So let's recalibrate for New York expectations.
That's a good ass point.
My favorite videos that he would do is like the halal cart video.
Yeah.
You know, hey guys, like halal's too expensive. Let's make it $8 again.
Yep.
I loved whenever he walked across Manhattan. And the thing is, what he was able to do, he'd be like, no, you're obsessed about Israel.
Yeah.
You guys are the, I'm not spending all my time talking about this. I would stay here in New York and hear all my policies to trying to change that.
Fantastic.
And if you've lived under Bloomberg, I mean, my criticism of this city is that they unfortunately kind of turned it into a playground of the rich, as opposed to a place that people lived. You know, when the stuff I would read about the 1980s in New York, I'm not saying it didn't
I
exist.
think it's always
but
been a playground for the rich.
it definitely has, but it has become the capital of the global global financial elite for a certain. You know, I mean, when I walk around.
Bro, that was a fucking tough game I just played. 17 turns? That's fucking rare. I was like thinking 40 chess in this last game. I fucking earned that fucking win right now. That was crazy. Sorry, I just had to say that. I was kind of like, holy shit, we're in a battle right now.
Though.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I
when
think
you
it
walked around in the
felt like there
80s,
was
you
success.
barely even hear English on the streets here in the summer, right? Half these people, they're from fucking
Well, that's
Dubai,
always the
Saudi
case.
Arabia, Germany, like all over the world. Like,
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But I think you're describing London.
Well, there's that too.
But in terms of, I think the difference now is that like everybody always came here for opportunity, right?
Yeah,
It
that's
didn't
right,
matter
that's
if you're an immigrant, you came here for opportunity. If you're from America and you moved here from like Wisconsin or Maine, you came here from opportunity. You're thinking
Yes.
of work at a big fund. You're thinking to be a graphic designer. You're thinking to be a fashion designer. Something. It's always opportunity, and I think that. What's happening now is that kids or Gen Z feels like the only way to make it now is through TikTok.
Yeah.
And I don't begrudge them because when we were coming up, at least in entertainment, there was like Comedy Central, MTV. There are these things that you could get on that made it feel accessible. And even if it wasn't accessible for you, there was this idea that like next year they're going to do an audition and maybe I'll get that, right? This idea of like getting on SNL, all these different things were possible. And one of the nice things about the, you know, decentralization of entertainment and making it go on the internet is that it gave freedom for people like us who wanted to go after it and make it ourselves. The problem is not everybody wants to go after and make it themselves. They want institutions and structures that are established that they can hope to get accepted by and put on. And now that those have fallen apart, and that's just in entertainment, now I think people are like, so I just got to go viral on TikTok? And it's just like, I love that because I love the idea of like, I'm in control of my destiny. Not everybody loves that. And I think even the illusion of opportunity is better than luck
Yeah,
for
definitely.
people. And I think they're seeing that in not just entertainment, but you're probably seeing that in other spheres as well. And to go back to what you're saying about like you make $100,000 a year but you have $300,000 worth of debt, I think that's why the rent freeze is so enticing to people, because if you're spending $1,700 a month, let's say, on your student loans, and that's just the interest, you're not even chipping away at them, that's your savings. So if you again take your rent from $5,000 a month and you take it down to $3,300, now you have your savings again. And I think in a way the program is kind of like punishing landlords for universities charging exorbitant prices.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're just passing the buck to someone else, and it's like landlord is a bad person, of course, because they own this property, and there are shitty landlords, I get it. But like I think the core of the issue is the fact that these kids are saddled with this debt, with these degrees that offer them nothing in a city like New York, and they're paralyzed with this fear that there is no opportunity for upward mobility.
That's very well said. And what you're getting to, and we'll wrap here, is like a structural issue, which is that America and our generation, I'm younger millennial, like I'm 33, and when I was coming up, it was you go to college and you will be rewarded. And now I'm actually at the age where I get to look back at who made it and who didn't. And I'm telling you guys, my friends with the most debt, they didn't make it.
It's fucked, dude.
Fucked up. And that, you watch the choices that people have to make. We're gonna delay.
Fuck that. I'm so glad I never went to school. Low key, I do want to pursue like school for computer stuff, but the debt you have to take on just to learn, just like the scratch of the surface, like brutal. And you're not even guaranteed a job these days because everybody's getting fucking fired. So it's like there's nowhere to go with your tech. You have to like build your own app, you know? And I'm like, that's where he was talking about the institutionalized. You want people to be like, you want the institution to give you that chance. Bro, how are we gonna make our own app and get billions? Well, we barely know anything, you know. Like you have to be a master of your craft, and then you have the opportunity to do it. But to have the opportunity to do it, you have to get a major amount of debt because you don't know how to fucking code, and you have to be taught that. I didn't grow up with that shit, so it's like it's kind of out of my element, you know. The dream is dead, guys. The dream is dead. I just gotta go viral on streams, guys. You guys gotta help me out.
A kid. That breaks my heart, man. We're gonna have to move wherever even though we want to live here, we have to go move somewhere else because we can't afford it. Even though this is the best place to make money, right? This is the best place for my career. I can't have it all.
You
I
can't
have to
take-
make serious choices.
You can't take the risks necessary for success. It's almost impossible to become successful without taking on immense risk.
Quite literally, when I started my business, I had $50,000 in credit card debt. I would have been fucked if breaking points didn't work. But you know, I mean, I was like, you know, I'm young. I called you before. I was like, I think it'll work. You know, I was like, I think so. But you know, we would have been actually hosed.
But imagine somebody with $300,000 in debt.
Right, they're not doing that.
They have
exactly.
They have a job that actually pays for things, and they go, I can't risk leaving
or
this.
wife and kids.
Oh,
I mean,
wife and kids is like, I think that's such a
they're like stratospheric in terms
dream
of
for people.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I think that like contributes to the support from Mamdani, and specifically the demographic that seems to be really excited about what he's going to bring. And but to me, there's a little bit of this passing the buck. It's like, okay, we have this thing we can't move, which are these loans, so we got to move it to another area to free up some economic mobility for these people. And and if you're one of those people that's out with that debt, like, you don't give a fuck who got to pay for it.
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
as long as it's not you. So I get that. They're offering a solution that maybe in the long term will hurt people, and I want to talk to him about it because I want to see like how we grapple with that. Like, what happens?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna wonder about too, because that's what I've been looking at Mamdani. I'm like, yeah, it fixes the problem now, but then you're setting yourself up for failure later on with your people. It's like, do we? You know what I'm saying? Like, the grass is greener on the other side right now, and it's not gonna work later on. Both sides are gonna be brown if it keeps going like that. But that's that green is really looking green right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, that Mamdani is interesting in that way, and people voted for it. That's the best part. So that's why I'm saying, give the people what they want, low key. Like, fuck it. Like, what else do we got to lose? What else do we got to lose? We're supposedly the best country in the whole world, right? Fuck it. Let's go. Let's test that theory out. How good are we? Let's see how good we are. Let's fuck shit up.
Joe.
No,
we'll
I've been talking. No, I've been talking
good,
to them.
good.
I've been talking
Okay,
to it. So it looks like that's going to happen. So, because I genuinely want to ask earnestly, like, what are the downstream effects of some of these policies? And how does that work? But there is no question that they are enticing, and it's not to the poor. People think that, oh, the poor love the socialists. No. It's the middle class that are entitled in their brains to a better life that they're not having, that this is so enticing. They're like, wait, why am I same economic bracket as my parents? I was supposed to be richer
Frankly,
than them.
lower than
Or
them.
lower.
Yeah.
There is no middle class.
In my opinion, you're materially much poorer than your parents. You're way materially poorer than your parents, and that's fucked up. I think that's wrong, and that's a systemic problem that gets to the very structure of our economy. I mean, one of the most important facts in the world from my friend Joe Weisenthal is Shanghai Stock Exchange has barely grown since 2009, but everyone in China, you are way more materially rich since 2009. In America, the number has to go up. Capital must return, and specifically at 8 to 9%. Our whole retirement's banked on that. Our whole economy is banked on that. And it doesn't matter if the shit that we own is nicer or not. It must return. It must have dividends. It must have payoff. And in Shanghai and in Beijing and all of that, they're like, oh, we don't give a fuck about that. They're like, are we getting drone deliveries? Are our houses nicer? Are our electric cars the best vehicles in the world, hands down? I'm telling you, if their ban was lifted, I would buy them tomorrow. There is no competition. I would throw the Tesla. I'm getting in the Yangwang. Like, it's done. BYD, let me in. Huawei, any of these other people, they have the best cars in the world. It's genuinely not a question. Not best electric, best cars in the world.
Damn.
Or in Shanghai, Beijing.
We suck. We gotta go to China, bro. Get a Chinese CCP, social credit score. Don't fuck up that one. All right, I already fucked up the credit score over here. I can't fuck up the social credit score over there. All right, I gotta make that one work. All right. We can't take out credit card debt over here. We got no credit card debt at all. We learned all debit. All debit.
The Chinese peasant, is materially much better off than the United States. than it was, compared to 2009, than the average American from 2009 to 2025. So let's all spend some time asking why. And a lot of it is debt leverage projects, education being sold, badly structured debt. I mean, the way that people are, even how do you get rich in America today? For most people, it's like, or even really filthy rich, it's to work in hedge funds and in finance and microtransactions for stuff that does not make this country better off. If you know how you get rich in China? The government goes, you're allowed to get rich. You can do it by building the best electric cars in the world. Oh, the hedge fund shit, you're gone. You're going to the gulag. Actually, we don't do that here, right? And that, I'm not advocating for that system, but in comparison to ours, it does work. And that's a deep question that we all have to ask.
It's a
It's like,
structural
who is
problem.
better off today? I believe that the Chinese are better off as a result of their way of life, which is really fucked up because I think we have a much better, we had a path. We didn't always used to be like this, and we could go in another direction.
Thanks, Reagan.
There you go. It's not just Reagan. They're all complicit now at this point.
Sagar, thank you so much, bro. We
Thank
love
you.
you. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Make sure you
guys.
check out Sagar on
Appreciate
Breaking
it.
Points.
There you go.
Dude, this guy was nutty. All right, I have to go to sleep because I have to wake up and do a bunch of shit. But I'm gonna try to see if this guy has a podcast before I go to sleep. This was awesome. This was probably one of their best episodes on the Flagrant. That shit was so cool. Let's see if I can find his podcast and I can subscribe. Yep. Nope. Where is he at? Breaking Points. All right. I want chat to go to Breaking Point on YouTube. Fucking subscribe. This guy is next level shit, bro. All right, guys. Well, I hope you had a good time with the Flagrant. I hope you had a good time with me. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 p.m. and we'll get this show running and get started. I'm gonna go see if a place is hiring tomorrow, so I'm excited to go talk to them. Hopefully it all works out. I'm gonna still keep the time though. I'm gonna figure that out, but I'm gonna still keep streaming because I feel like he just said you have to go big on TikTok. I feel like you have to go big on streaming, like Kick, Twitch, YouTube. I feel like that's where the money's at. I mean, Asmongold showed me the revenue, and he showed me the light of like, this is how you fucking make money if you can make it. And I'm like, fuck, do I have the personality for that? I mean, how will I know unless I try, you know? So this is what we're doing. I'm gonna stick with it for a couple years, see how it goes, and see if it grows. Let's get some sleep. Good night, y'all.